What's up and welcome back to Bardown Talking Hockey episode number 111 presented by the Barroom Network. My name is Vinnie Parisi and I am moving through the motions of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And this right here, this is Frankie Mueller, and he's arguably had the biggest win of anyone on the show in the history of the show. Frank, how you doing?
We did it. We did it. It was destiny. We share the same birthday. He knew. It was destiny from the moment I figured that out. Tom says it's Bedard time, baby. Heart Foundation, who was here 40 minutes, 50 minutes before the show started, said, let's go Blackhawks. Everybody's pumped. And then Travis, the bearer of bad news, the damper on everything. Wouldn't it be so Chicago sports if the Hawks don't pick Bedard?
No.
I think that's near impossible.
Someone called in the ESPN 1000 yesterday and said, I think the Blackhawks, those meatball fans, I think the Blackhawks should trade back. They'll get 3 first-round picks for Connor Bedard.
I know, I heard that too.
Shut up. This isn't football. This isn't baseball. This isn't basketball. This is a generational talent. You know what, Frank? We're already getting right into it. Let's just talk about the big news here in period number 1. Fastest transition to period 1 in the history of the show?
Yeah.
I mean,
besides no transition.
Yeah. Fuck you. The Blackhawks, they win the draft lottery. They move up from 3rd to 1st. They will have the 3rd pick in every other subsequent round. And it's a great thing. I mean, at the end of the day, we talk the entire NHL on this podcast. This is an NHL podcast, but due to the nature of the hosts, it's a Devils Blackhawks podcast first. And, we're super pumped about it. I know you would be equally as pumped if the Devils won the lottery for me as I am for you.
We've seen that already before.
Yeah, we've seen that. Exactly. Between us two, we have 4 lottery wins in the last 6 years.
That's ridiculous.
The Devils won 3 because last year people forget they won a lottery spot. They moved up from 6 to 2, and this year the Chicago Blackhawks move up from 3 to 1, and they will be getting the guy who is proclaimed to be one of the next ones. Okay, Lafreniere had hype. The Nate Dogg had hype. Connor McDavid is obviously the pedestal of hype. I would say Bedard is the most hyped player since
absolutely.
Since Connor McDavid.
I was sweating the whole day. I was sweating the whole day. I was on edge. I had clammy hands. And then it was like 20-7. And I'm like, all right, everything's got to stop. I'm going to get prepared for this. And it was just electrifying. When it was announced that the Hawks, when Bill Daly flipped over the number 1 card and it was the Hawks logo, I screamed just as loud as if they won the Stanley Cup. I was pumped. I was like, then I was really sweating. Then it was on. Then it took a couple hours for me to relax because, they defied the odds. They had a 77% chance of drafting 3, 4th, or 5th, and they defied all odds. They win the draft lottery. And after every team that was being announced, we started at 16, then 15. I'm like, all right, here at 11, we need to see Vancouver. I'm like, show me Vancouver. It was Vancouver. Then it got down to like the final 5, and we started seeing San Jose. I'm like, all right, here we go. This is the big one, number 3. And as soon as it wasn't Chicago, I'm like, well, at least we're getting at least Fantilli or Bedard. We're getting one of the two. But I'm sure you're well aware that Kevin Weeks spoiled it before they went to commercial. I didn't pick up on that, but apparently G did or Tom did. And I'm like, and I was like thinking that they're crazy. I'm like, they're not going to spoil it. Nobody said that. And then I went back and listened. I'm like, oh my God, he choked so hard.
He choked.
That probably would have alleviated the pressure a little bit if I heard that. I'm like, no way, wait a second. Because I had to wait till he flipped over the card. But yeah, he choked big time.
Yeah, the entire commercial break, you knew it was one of Anaheim or Chicago. And I just want to really quick address a comment here from the Hart Foundation. We do have room on the bandwagon if you care to join us. Let's pump the brakes there, freaking Hart Foundation. The Devils are in the 2nd round of the postseason. They had their franchise win and franchise record in wins. The Blackhawks aren't just going to add Connor Bedard to be better than the Devils. I hate to burst your bubble right now. Listen, I've been rooting. The Blackhawks have been the team I'm rooting for to win the lottery. You followed me on Twitter. I've been tweeting Chicago, Chicago. I want to see Connor Bedard a half hour away from where I live. Connor Bedard. They don't play in the same conference as the Devils. I'll have no problem saying the Blackhawks are my second favorite team. We'll cheer on Bedard and we'll cheer on Bedard and Hughes together, Frank. We'll have a podcast of love between the Blackhawks and the Devils. I think that's kind of already what it's been all season long. We have no issues with that whatsoever. This is a Blackhawks Devils hosted show of all NHL. Don't tell me you have room on the Blackhawks bandwagon right now. You need about 3 more franchise defensemen. You need about 6 forwards worth of depth, and you need one of Drew Comesso or Soderblom or somebody else from the outside to prove that they're a starting goaltender for longer than 5 minutes. You have a long way to go before you're the Devils. Now, I will say the Devils started in the same spot. They won the lottery when they got Nico Hischier. They won it a second time, and they got Jack Hughes. They built down the middle. I'm not certain what position Bedard is going to play. Played lots of right wing over the last two years. There are people projecting him to grow into becoming an NHL franchise centerman. We'll see how his two-way game develops over the next 2 years. I ultimately think he'll end up on the wing, but they'll start him at center. They will start him at center. And guess what? If he becomes a wing, there's no problem with that. Patrick Kane was a winger who drove offense like a center for years, and he's one of the best players in Chicago Blackhawks history. He's been everything they've ever needed as a number 1 pick back in 2007. So it's not a diss to say he'll become a wing one day. I'm not sure what's going to become of his position, but I do know that this is a generational talent who – do I think there's a chance he's better than Hughes one day? Absolutely. Do I think there's a chance that these two, along with Kucherov and Thompson and Draisaitl and McKinnon and Matthews, are all battling for the title of second best player in the NHL for the next 10 years? Absolutely. Could Connor Bedard really be that guy who's just a lock to be the second best player in the NHL or even the first best player in the NHL? I also think that is very possible. I think there's going to be growing pains early because the Blackhawks roster is very poo-poo. The nice thing about the Blackhawks roster being poo-poo is it's kind of poo-poo because they don't spend any money right now, and they're going to have to reach a cap floor by the start of next season, which means they'll sign some talent in the offseason. It wouldn't shock me if they bring in a guy, who came to mind? Tomas Tatar. He's an unrestricted free agent after whenever the Devils are done, and he definitely feels like a guy that the Blackhawks could bring into play on Connor Bedard's wing for one season. 20 goals playing with Jack Hughes or one of Jack Hughes or Nico Hischier last year, some second PP time. I actually think there's a chance that a guy like that, maybe not him specifically, but a player like that, I don't think they're going to run out freaking Jason Dickinson and Tyler Johnson on his wing at any point next year. I could see Lucas Reichel. We'll see if they try to bring back a guy like Max Domi. People have brought up Alex DeBrincat. Like, wow, that'd be cool. I just think that there's a long way to go for the Chicago Blackhawks team. I still think they'll be in the Max Celebrini sweepstakes next year. I texted you this and Tom, who's in the chat, in a little group chat. How awesome would it be if Bedard scores a cool 80 points next year, wins the Calder Trophy, and then the Blackhawks still come in like 3rd or 4th, and then they win the lottery again? That would just be freaking awesome. Hart says, are any legit shot at signing Austin Matthews? I mean, that free agent class 2 years from now is looking like it's going to be one of the best free agent classes in the history of the NHL. You got Matthews and Draisaitl leading the way there. I could see either one of those guys being like, yeah, I'll go play with Connor Bedard. That'd be awesome. I get a class city like Chicago. I do think it'll open up some opportunities like that. I'm not saying they will sign Matthews or Draisaitl, but I think they'll be in the mix because they'll have cap room. Bedard will just be getting set to sign his big deal, assuming that his rookie contract goes well for him and he lives up to the hype that we think he will. But Tom asks if I'm building a statue for Bedard yet. And then, Frank, I'll let you touch on this. EA Sports mocked his career. Did you see that?
No.
EA Sports NHL simulated his career, and these are the results.
I'm going to maybe write about that.
Yeah, I did too. I highly recommend you write about it. It's burning for the Windy City right now. Here, I will find the tweet right now. Sometimes when I open, Elon really kind of messed up Twitter. There's really not much else to say other than that. It's always slow when it loads. But they mocked Connor Bedard's career. I highly recommend you write about it. They believe he will win the Calder Trophy. He will win the Hart Trophy 4 times. the Ted Lindsay Trophy 4 times, the Rocket Richard twice, and the Stanley Cup 3
Holy
times.
shit.
I believe he will play 1,455 games and score 739 goals and 1,145 assists for 1,884 points. Frank, the only people who have more points than 1,884 are Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, and Mark Messier, who has 3 more points. He has 1,887. They're projecting Bedard 1,884. I mean, and I think McDavid and Crosby will both kind of finish in that range. I personally think Crosby's going to finish with over 2,000. So by the time Bedard reaches that point, I think Crosby and McDavid will be in that company. But I mean, dude, unbelievable talent on this guy. I'll take a back seat here and let you ramble on about Bedard a little bit. He is coming to your number 1 team after all.
I mean, yeah, I mean, this is just moving the Hawks in the right direction a little bit faster than what would have been if they didn't get Bedard. Now, I mean, you look at the Hawks; they're well set up this year for the draft as well. They got the first pick, first overall, and then I believe right now they also have the first round pick. That's a 20th pick in the first round, and then they have 4 second round picks, which is huge this year because, like we always have said, the first round talent bleeds into the second round. So having 4 second round picks in this year's draft is huge. Let's not forget in 2002, the Hawks drafted Duncan Keith in the second round. So you never know what you're going to get, especially with as talented as a draft as it is this year. And they have 2 third-round picks, and then the picks go on. They got some 4th and 5th and whatnot. But they are loaded right now. I love the direction they're moving. The farm system's great. Seeing guys like Bedard playing with Del Mastro, Doc, Lucas Reichel, Frank Nazar, just Kevin Korchinski, these guys coming together, it almost feels like, a core is coming back. Like we lost everybody, and now it feels like a core is finally coming back. I'm excited about it. I agree. I don't think they're going to be great this year, but I also don't think they're going to be like dead last. I don't think it's going to be as close as it was this year for them being bottom of the barrel, but I could be wrong. By no means do I think they're going to make the playoffs, but we shall see. I mean, in a perfect world, yeah, getting Max Celebrini, that'd be cool, but I'm not banking on him winning it back-to-back years. That's tough. Like I'm grateful we won it this year. Because it's hard to win it any year. Some teams have never drafted first overall, let alone back-to-back. It's an exciting time to be a Blackhawks fan.
Would you like to apologize to me?
For?
I told you last year, do not win the lottery.
You're right.
Do not win the lottery. Don't do it. Shane Wright is good. I still believe Juraj Slafkovsky will be good. I love Simon Nemec. I think he's going to be the Devils' number 2 defenseman behind Hughes one day. Don't do it. Win it next year. You can only win twice in a span of 5 years per the new rules.
Mm-hmm.
The Hawks have their one. If they don't get Celebrini, listen, I think it's going to take 2 to 3 years for the Hawks to be like championship level good. I really do. Like, look how long it took. McDavid's been in the league for 9 years. He still hasn't won the Stanley Cup, and they've only been in the 3rd round once. People thinking that the Hawks are winning the 2025 Stanley Cup, I have bad news for you. And all of those prospects you just named are great. Not all of them are going to hit. You're going to have a Jesper Boquist in there. I thought that Jesper Boquist would be the Devils' 3rd best player one day, behind Hughes and Heischer. He's very depthy, healthy scratch even sometimes. You gotta hold your horses on. But listen, I love prospects, and I think after this draft, the Blackhawks are going to have the number 1 farm system in the NHL because the Wild and the Devils are probably the only ones ranked ahead of them right now anyway. And the Devils are going to graduate Luke Hughes and Nemec, and the Wild are going to graduate Rossi, and Boldy's no longer a prospect. I think the Blackhawks really will shoot up and be number 1 in the NHL for as long as Bedard is in their system. And then even when they graduate Bedard by like November of next year, I still think they might have the number 1 system because they're going to make all these picks. Do you think they're going to make every single one of these selections? Because I have a very strong opinion on that.
I don't know. I never really thought about it, really. I mean, my mind's just been on Connor Bedard the past few days.
So my theory is they don't. They have this 1st round pick and 4 second round picks. move back into the top 10. I mean, I'm looking at the mocks, and I'm like, there's no reason the Blackhawks. We know Bedard's going to go 1. Fantilli will go 2 to Michigan. He'll be a superstar. We'll get to that in a second because I do want to talk about the Ducks. I love Will Smith, and the actor, he's great too. But this Will Smith from the development program, a centerman from USA, just really good. Matthew Wood, he's going to go to UConn, play for Hockey East championships for the next couple years. I think that's something to consider. This Ryan Leonard is apparently really, really good. Zach Benson, a lot of people like him. I would just love to see the Blackhawks trade up and take one of these forwards to play with Mr. Bedard here, because
that's a possibility.
A lot of people think Michkov is going to fall.
I think he's going to fall.
Okay.
Just because he's not going to play right away.
Why not trade up and take him? If he's available at 9 or 10, you trade what pick is the Lightning going to be? It's not fully decided. I think it's going to be like 19, 20.
It's like
trade
20.
Trade 20 and 2 of the 4 second-round picks. Come up, take Michkov, and say, okay, pal, we'll see you in a couple years when your KHL contract's up. Connor Bedard will be in year 4. He'll have 300 career NHL points by then. You just slap that guy, who probably would be the number 2 pick if he didn't have all this stuff. I think he's more skilled than Fantilli, but he's less of a lock to be a really good NHL player than Fantilli, which is why, the difference in draft stock right now. If there's a team that could take a risk like that now, it's the Blackhawks, because they're going to have Bedard, and, they have all these other great prospects. Like, Arizona's not taking that chance. They can't wait to draft a player who they think is going to take that long to potentially come over to the NHL. I think a team like Philly could take that chance, because I think they're going to be going through a really hard rebuild here too. I think they'll firmly be in the Max Celebrini sweepstakes. A team like Columbus certainly isn't going to take him, because they probably want to be right back in the playoff mix next year with Johnny Gaudreau in year 2 of the contract. We've seen guys in year 2 of contracts just go back to being their normal selves again. I firmly believe that will happen for Johnny Hockey. Patrick Laine is a 30-goal scorer. They'll get Zach Werenski back from injury. I don't think Columbus they're thinking like now. They're not thinking years and years down the line. The Blackhawks still have time to be thinking 2-3 years down the line. I don't know, man. This Connor Bedard thing, it changes everything, and I'm super stoked about it.
I got him being good in 3 years. That's my timeline here. I figure you 3 years, kind of going off a little bit of history here, when they drafted Kane in 2007, won the Cup in 2010. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win the Cup in 2026, but I'm saying they will. I could see them being one of those top teams that are going to make the playoffs in roughly 3 years. I think that's fair. If we didn't have Bedard, I think it would have taken a lot more, time. But, they could surprise us too. They defied odds once a couple nights ago, right? So you never know. I'm excited. You lose your franchise players in Kane and Taves in the same season, and you end up getting Bedard. And since it actually not even like an hour and a half after, they did like $2.5 million in season tickets, like an hour and a half as soon as the draft was announced. And then the next morning, they were up to $5.2 million in ticket sales. Everybody's excited. This is a huge moment for the Blackhawks. It's a huge moment for the city of Chicago, where everybody's dialed back in, and we're ready to be competitive in the next few years. So I'm excited about that. And like you mentioned earlier, it should be interesting to see any free agents that want to come play with Chicago now. Because, like, who doesn't want to play next to Bedard?
100%. What do you think about Hart Foundation's comment about comparing Bedard to Sid the Kid? What's your take on that?
I'm hearing Sid the Kid comps a lot. What say you experts? I don't know if I've ever heard him being compared to Sidney Crosby. I think, was it him or Fantilli I said was Kucherov? Was that Fantilli that I was compared him to?
I think it was Bedard.
It might have been Bedard. He very well could be a Sidney Crosby. If they're projecting him to be as good as he is and the simulations go right, and I mean, he's in some pretty good company. I'd say he'd be right up there with Crosby. Nothing's for sure, and I want to hope that he is, or even better than Crosby, obviously. But I'm saying that there's a pretty good chance. I mean, guys like this don't come around and bust that often. I mean, you look at the years, you look at history, and which guys like this have been rated. The last guy that was hyped up this much was Connor McDavid, and look how he turned out, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of hype here. I don't see him being a bust. I do see him being elite, like maybe Sidney Crosby or, other great players who've come and gone in the league. If he's a Mario Lemieux, I'll take that as well. I mean, but you don't know. I mean, it's so hard to say those things with the guy that's never played, but I'm very confident that that's the way it's gonna turn out to be.
If the comps are Sidney Crosby in terms of production, perhaps similar point totals, blah blah blah. But like so does Jack Hughes. But Jack Hughes and Sidney Crosby are nothing alike in terms of the way they play. And that's how I feel about Connor Bedard. I actually think Connor Bedard's closest comparable, in my opinion, is Austin Matthews. I don't know if he's as good defensively as Austin Matthews. Austin Matthews might win a Selke in his career. He's outstanding defensively. And Austin Matthews' shot, though, is otherworldly, and that's how I feel about Connor Bedard. Sidney Crosby has over 500 career goals, but there's a lot of muck and guts in Sidney Crosby's goals. Going to the front of the net, tipping in pucks, taking abuse, being a big butt in front of the net, and banking in rebounds, and being better at everybody else in tight. Better than everybody else in tight and down low behind the net and wraparounds and stuff like the greasy goals for Sidney Crosby. Connor Bedard, in a lot of ways, invented a new way to shoot the puck. He shoots it unlike I've ever seen a player shoot. Like he almost like Matthews brings his hands together when he shoots and it throws off the goalie big time. It changes the angle. Every time he shoots, his hands, you'll always notice they come together, which is very rare to see. Like not even rare. Like you don't see anybody else do that. Like Ovechkin keeps his hands in two firm spots. Matthews kind of brings it up and almost flicks it using the top of the stick. Bedard kind of like, it almost looks like the puck goes in a circle as he shoots it. And like, the angles are so thrown off that the goalies can't read it like the way that other goalies can. Bedard, he'll probably end with more assists than goals, because most players do. Ovechkin is I'm pretty sure he's close to being even in goals and assists, even though, right? He probably has more goals.
He has way more goals, I think, yeah.
But still, most guys, Bedard's still a great playmaker. Look at what he did in the World Juniors. He had 9 goals, but he still had like 15 assists, and he broke World Junior Championship records. He scored 71 goals for the Regina Pats this season. He had 72 assists. Like,
I don't think a lot of people understand how special this is unless you're an avid like hockey fan. Like the commoners who like love the Blackhawks and just don't follow them they're like, oh, this kid's got a lot of hype, but I don't think you truly understand unless you know the capability that Connor Bedard has. And Hart Foundation says, do you think Kane might have a change of heart and come back home? I do not. I don't think Kane is coming back to the Blackhawks, but I do think there is a very good chance maybe a guy like Alex DeBrincat would, 25 years old, get him back by the time the Hawks are good, 28, 29 years old. I mean, bam, he's right in the mix. Even Max Domi, because he loves playing under Luke Richardson. That's a very well possibility. Or a name you don't hear as much that maybe I'm going to throw out there. What about like a veteran center is like Sean Monahan coming to the Blackhawks, kind of mentoring Bedard? And I think having Sean Monahan on the team would be a great addition to the Hawks. You don't know. I mean, I think it would do good. It'd teach the kid some stuff. And I mean, I think a lot of free agents are going to want to come to Chicago because of how young they are. I mean, look at Timo Meier going to the Devils and how young the Devils are. Like, people want to go play for the New Jersey Devils. And I think the same thing is going to be said about the Hawks in years to come.
I agree. I don't think Patrick Kane is coming back. I don't think they're going to want him back. He's going to be 35 years old. They're not going to let the door hit him in the ass when people leave. I do think a guy like DeBrincat could come back. He fits the mold. I'm looking at the free agents, and when I take a look at some of the wings that could potentially play with him, Patrick Kane is obviously at the top of the list. He's somebody that could be in consideration. Would Ryan O'Reilly consider playing wing on a team like the Blackhawks?
Free agent, but I didn't think he'd come over.
Yeah, I don't know. He's not going to be all that expensive. Would he be willing to play wing or be a 1-2 punch with Bedard to try and show him the ropes, as you suggest? James Van Riemsdyk is an option. Max Pacioretty, he's a little too injured. I probably wouldn't go near him. Jordan Staal, who's been great with Carolina, he's probably been like he's not nominated for the Selke Trophy, but he will receive, like when the little sheet comes out at the end, his name will be on there in the top 10. He might even be number 4. Milan Lucic is 35. I don't know if they'll bring in a bruiser like that to play with him. Gustav Nyquist decent player has a chance. 33 years old. Andrew Ladd and Hornquist, those ships have probably sailed. Daddy from the Dallas Stars. I think he could be somebody that the Hawks look at if you don't feel like going back. I mentioned Tomas Tatar. Foligno from the Bruins. Probably not. But, I mean, there are some people. Andreas Athanasiou could come back. Obviously, Max Domi. I'm looking. Vladislav Nemesnikov, probably not. Eric Hall is a free agent that they might consider. I don't know. There are some names out there. There's obviously trades to be made, like you said, with the Devils and the Oilers and some of these other teams, the Avalanche, these teams with top playmakers that were selected at near the top of the draft. That becomes free agent destination. And, that's just how it is sometimes. 10 of the last 15 Stanley Cup champions made a number one pick within the years leading up to it and had that player producing for them. So you think of Stamkos and Kane and, Crosby, Ovechkin. I don't think the St. Louis Blues are one of the exceptions. The Kings are one of the exceptions. I'm trying to think, who else could I be missing here?
The Bruins?
The Bruins had a number 2.
I was going to say, I don't think they picked one.
No, they had a 2. They had a 2 in there. They took Tyler Seguin, and they won the cup with him in his rookie year. And the Bruins were they were gifted that number 2 pick. They were an elite team picking second because they had the Leafs pick from the Tuukka Rask trade. Or no, it was the Phil Kessel trade. And the Bruins ended up with 2. They came in second for the lottery. Or the Leafs came in second for the lottery. The Bruins got the pick and took Tyler Seguin. Which, funny, number 1 was Taylor Hall, who now plays for the Bruins. It's just it's a big moment when you make a selection like that, and it's obviously going to be really cool. He's going to get booed the H out of him in Nashville, and I kind of feel bad that it's in Nashville and the Blackhawks have the number 1 pick.
Could you imagine if it was in Chicago?
Yes.
I can't imagine. The roof would be gone.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about putting something together where we take a one-night trip out to Nashville. We could rent a car and drive there. The tickets are so cheap for the draft. Maybe we could put something together like that. Maybe Tom will be interested in going or something like that. It's a weekday. We have no excuse not to go check this out.
It's the 28th. What day is that?
I think it's a Thursday. And we could just take a quick 7.
Wednesday.
Yeah, we could take a quick 7-hour drive.
Bardown show.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, we could take a quick trip down there, do our show from a Nashville hotel or something like that, and then go see the draft, and maybe do a special live show after. I think there are so many opportunities with this, with it being a Wednesday, and it's cool that I think that's the way it is, and man, that'd be fun. We'll see if we could put something like that together. Maybe even Eldo will be down to go and really get down the nitty gritty of hockey conversation for just a night or two in Nashville, and then we could go hang out at Honky Tonk after. Have a couple brewskis with the Nashville country folk. The Devils don't.
Says that's impressive stuff. Thanks, boys.
Of course, you're welcome. Yeah. How about the Ducks though? They come in second for the draft lottery. I know you feel no quarrel for them whatsoever, but they have now. I don't know if you heard about this. They came in second.
I was going to say
in the Sidney Crosby draft.
They just got bad luck.
Yeah, well, you know who they took with that second pick?
Bobby Ryan.
Our good friend Bobby Ryan.
Yep. I mean,
was on the show like a month ago.
No Sidney Crosby, but
Bobby Ryan would say that. He pretty much.
I'm pretty sure he did.
He probably did on our show.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that makes me wonder, in 10 years, are we going to have Adam Fantilli on the show? I think that'd be pretty funny.
Maybe.
If it all came full circle. But the Ducks, they come in second in the Bedard draft and the Crosby draft. Well, the McDavid draft, what happened to them in 2015? They lost in Game 7 after having a 3-2 series lead over the Chicago Blackhawks. Poor Ducks. I mean, that's just tough. But they will take
always finishing second to the Blackhawks.
Yeah, or the Penguins. What's your take? Oh, and the Ducks have lost to the Devils in the Stanley Cup final.
They just have
yeah, they like second place. And the Mighty Ducks is also the second best Disney sports movie named after a team. I would say I enjoy Angels in the outfield just a tad bit more than the Mighty Ducks. But Fantilli, man,
He'll be great. He'll be
I
great with
think
the
he'll
Ducks.
be
The Ducks
great.
don't need Bedard. They got Zegras,
Wow.
Troy Terry. I mean, come on, though. They don't need him. Like the Hawks need him, like bad. Like the Ducks roster is better right now. They got Troy Terry, Mason McTavish, Drysdale, Trevor Zegras. I mean, they got guys, and I think a guy with the attitude that Adam Fantilli has, that mean, gutsy, grinding. He's got that just personality. Kind of is the opposite of what Trevor Zegras is. Trevor Zegras is a good guy, likes to have fun. You got like best of both worlds on your team, and I think that's going to mesh really well together. And I, like you said when we talked about it the other night. After the draft, it's going to be like I could see a lot of Hawks Ducks battles in years to come. So I think the Ducks are just going to be just fine with Adam Fantilli.
I tweeted that Fantilli Zegras could be very similar to a Heischer Hughes combination. Do you kind of agree with that?
I could see it.
Like a diet version.
Yeah,
I think Hughes is better. I think Hughes is better than Zegras, and I think Heischer is better than Fantilli. But the style of play.
Yeah,
absolutely. I could see it being like Fantilli's the mean a-hole. Probably their next. I mean, would they give him the captaincy over Terry or Zegras? I could see it. It's weird. I could see it. It's not a lock. They still might give it to Zegras, NHL 23, face of the NHL, probably even, getting close to, just because all his goals are pretty. He might have 20 to 30 less points than Hughes in any given year or Bedard in any given year, but his goals just might be a tad bit more pretty. Mm-hmm. I don't see Bedard scoring the Michigan. I don't see Jack Hughes scoring the Michigan. They'll just have 3 goals to every Trevor Zegras Michigan. And there's nothing against Zegras. He's supremely skilled. He's a video game. I love Trevor Zegras. I can't wait till October to watch the Ducks again. I've actually been missing my Ducks fix because I do watch the Ducks a lot. Mm-hmm. And, I just think Fantilli Zegras could be like that type of 1-2 punch that does help you in the playoffs because of the contrasting styles. So, I don't know. I think the Ducks are in a good spot. Depth on defense and better bottom 6, I think, is probably the key to them beyond the Fantilli pick. I don't think they're going to be this bad next year.
It's kind of funny that the Blue Jackets got screwed out of it all because they were in last for a majority of the year, and they just at the end of the season they kept going up, and they finished second with the worst record, but they got the worst end of it all. But they'll probably draft like Leo Carlson and be fine too. So
yeah, I don't think their future's unbright. I think they're the team, and there are Blackhawks fans that might disagree with me on this. I think they're the team that purposely tanked the most because they were so rattled by injuries this year that by February they said, fuck it. Like, we're done. We're going to frickin' trade Nyquist. Werenski's out for the year. We're going to start all these idiots in goal. Johnny Gaudreau, you don't have to play the last 2 games. So, Laine, you're done. The Hawks, Buddy fucking Robinson almost cost them stupid Connor Bedard. Like, listen, if the Blackhawks didn't win the lottery, I think Buddy Robinson would be public enemy number 1 in Chicago city limits for the next freaking 20 years. So, we don't have to hate Buddy Robinson anymore because he scored 1 measly goal against the Pittsburgh Penguins. We don't even have to hate the Penguins as Chicagoans. It all worked out. Each of our teams won a lottery when they were the 3rd worst team. Mm-hmm. The Devils and the Blackhawks have each done that now. So we have that under our belt. It's going to be fun doing this show with these 2 teams. Because I think this show will be at its best if both teams, if we're rooting for each other to meet each other in the Stanley Cup final.
Could you imagine if the Devils met the Hawks in the Stanley Cup final?
I think it's possible. I really, really do. The Devils need to be good for the duration of the Hawks getting good. I didn't know Buddy's middle name was fucking Buddy fucking Robinson. You know what? You know why I say it like that, Tom? I don't think I've ever heard a Chicago fan just say Buddy Robinson. It's always just been Buddy fucking Robinson because he scored that stupid ass goal against the Penguins that cost them the best odds in the lottery. I mean, that's just the way it rolled. They were never having the second best odds. They were only going to have the worst odds or the 3rd worst odds. It worked out in the end. Did you see salty St. Louis Blues fans are pissed off because they were one number away. They
Were
were
they
one
really?
number. Yeah, the code that earned the Blackhawks Bedard was
I
4.
watched it.
Yeah, it was 4, 5, 9, 13. The Blues were 4, 5, 8, 13.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you imagine?
The St. Louis Blues were one numerical ping pong ball, 8 or 9 away from getting Connor Bedard. And listen, he would have looked really good in the St. Louis Blues unit. I know you don't think
I would
that.
have been pissed.
Yeah, that would have been tough for
God.
Chicago. That would have been tough for Chicago because they were like bad by accident, kind of. And still, it's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. I think Vancouver was off by 1 too, but it was a little less egregious. I think Vancouver might have been 4, 5, 9, 12. I don't know. It's not funny with them though, because like, Connor Bedard's from British Columbia. Like them winning the lottery would actually be like a great story in the NHL. I don't know. I just I think the St. Louis Blues fans are a little annoyed, but
it's all right. Good.
Everyone in my immediate family's birthday is covered in the Blackhawks winning numbers too. Lisa's 5, me and Joey are 9, and Mike's 13, and there's 4 of us.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I think
really funny.
I want to say it's Barstool. They're selling a shirt that has lottery balls, but the balls are Blackhawk feather colors, and it's 4, 5, 9, 13. I think I'm gonna scoop one of those.
That's really, yeah, I might too. That's really
cool. Maybe I'll just buy 2 and we'll wear them on the show.
The heart says I'm playing those numbers in the lottery.
Yeah. Can you imagine if they win like a money lottery, like the Illinois lottery?
Yeah, that's what he's saying. He's gonna go do that. It'd be insane.
Well, the rest of the draft order of the non-playoff teams are as follows. Obviously, the Chicago Blackhawks will be picking first, and the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim will be picking second, followed by the Blue Jackets at third, the San Jose Sharks at 4, the Montreal Canadiens at 5, Arizona Coyotes at 6, Philadelphia Flyers at 7, Washington Capitals at 8, Detroit Red Wings at 9, St. Louis Blues at 10. The Vancouver Canucks are 11. The Ottawa Senators are 12. The Buffalo Sabres are 13. The Pittsburgh Penguins are 14. And the Nashville Predators are 15.
Did you forget about the Flames at 16?
The Flames are 16. Correct. Thank you for that. I believe the whole draft order changes if Florida ends up hanging on to beat the Leafs, because then they become, it's crazy. They are either drafting 17th or 28th or worse. Because when you get to the conference finals, it's no longer reverse order. Yeah. The conference finals are the final 4 picks of the first round, but every other playoff team are just in reverse order of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So the Devils will probably be like 24 if they don't get past Carolina. Same thing with Carolina. That'll be like 25. But they jump all the way up to 29 if they make it to the conference finals, just because they put the conference finals teams at the end. So Tom wants to know who's Joey.
Who?
He's mad.
That's rough.
I mean, the teams I felt the most bad for while watching the lottery, even more than like the Blue Jackets, are the 4 teams that miss playoffs but can't win the lottery. Well, they can win the lottery, but they can't get Bedard. And that was the Predators, Penguins, Sabres, and Senators. If they won the lottery, they would just move up 10 spots. And then the teams that made the playoffs but got bounced in the first round. So you're done with your playoff games, and you also can't win the lottery. I think that's tough.
It is tough.
But it happens every year, and I'd rather make the playoffs as a good team.
Mm-hmm.
And have a chance going forward. But then there's teams like the Bruins and the Rangers where you don't really know what their future is going to look like, and they could be participating. Oh, and when Bill Daly flipped over the card and it showed the Penguins, I was like, wait a minute. I've never seen a draft lottery card with a Penguins logo on it. The last time they participated in the draft lottery, I wasn't watching hockey the way I am now. There are some. Who else hasn't participated in the lottery? Because now that we've seen the Blackhawks do it,
has Tampa Bay?
Yeah, Tampa Bay was in the lottery the year before they won the Cup.
Wow.
Yeah,
Then they won the cup the year after.
I think it was the year after or 2 years after. They missed the playoffs there when Victor Hedman was hurt. Victor Hedman was hurt and Kucherov was hurt. They like had like a mediocre year. They missed the playoffs by like 1 point, I remember. Yeah. I don't know if they won the cup the next year. They might have made it to the conference finals the next year against Pittsburgh. I don't remember. They made it far the year after missing the playoffs though. And like we've seen the Bruins even participate. They were the first card shown when they got McAvoy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that draft were redone, McAvoy would probably go second. So the Bruins ended up winning the lottery anyway in that way. But, you know, that's how it goes sometimes. Frank, I'm excited for the draft.
I am too. I'm very, very excited. I can't wait. Me
too. And we're going to be taking a look at lots of prospects throughout the show over the summer. And, you know, I'm becoming a prospect guy. I've always have been. But speaking of prospects, this might be my favorite picture for those of you listening on the audio version. It's Connor Bedard with Colton Dock and Kevin Korchinski after winning the gold medal at the World Junior Championships. No clue all three of them would be teammates at that point in time.
That is crazy.
Absolutely. So you got anything left on Bedard before we head into period 2?
I still feel like I'm in a dream. I'm just going to wake up and it's going to be like, all right, time to do the draft lottery.
Time to do the draft lottery.
It just doesn't feel real to me.
What were did you think they had, like, now that the draft lottery's over and you could stop, like, lying, because I know you're a freaking liar.
Liar.
What were your actual feelings that day? Well, because you always act like, oh, I think the Blackhawks, they got a good chance to win.
No,
like, yeah, I get the show face thing. I do it too. Devils in 7.
What do you mean? I was nervous the whole day.
So you didn't, like, did you?
No, I didn't. Like, in my head, I'm like, they have a chance. Never say never, but it's probably not going to happen.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I remember, I always had a feeling for the Hawks. I don't know why.
But like I said, as soon as I found out he shared the same birthday, that was it. It like made sense. And then I started picturing of teams like, I can't picture him in a Ducks jersey. It just didn't make sense. It made sense of him being in a Hawks jersey. I don't know. Maybe I'm biased, but that's just the way my brain works.
I don't think you're biased. I agree with you.
I thought it was really weird that he had the same birthday.
Yeah, that is odd.
That is like really creepy to the point where like this is fixed. He's got the same birthday. He's coming to Chicago.
100%.
Even Skoke said it earlier. Where's his comment? He said Frankie called it with his birthday. See, now Skokes will never forget my birthday. Nobody will. So
just look up Bedard's birthday.
Exactly. So this is it's just hilarious.
I do have this in my cart.
I was gonna. Yeah, I was. Well, I told you Tom said he's gonna get a Bedard jersey because he knows he won't be traded.
Or they won't draft Bedard.
Could you imagine?
They take Fantilli, he becomes a generational superstar, second best player in the league. Bedard becomes a bust with the Ducks.
That'd be the Ducks' luck.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because the Ducks, their organization is built off of players like Fantilli. I mean, Fantilli could be Getzlaf. And, you know, Zegras, he's not really Corey Perry, but who's Zegras? I mean, no. Because when they had Getzlaf, Perry, and Ryan Kessler, it was like a trio unlike most teams in the West. Like, there's a reason they competed with Kopitar, Doughty, and whoever else you would consider the third. Carter. Jeff Carter was definitely the number 3 guy there. Or Taves, Kane, and Hossa. Wasn't Mr. Game 7 Justin Williams?
Yep, it was Williams.
Who also was like part of that like 6 scene there. Oh man, I need California hockey to be back. Like the Kings are already good.
That team was so good. I love that team.
Yeah, the Kings are so good now. And like I know they lost to Edmonton, but they put up a damn fight and they're only getting better. The Sharks suck, but like man, draft Carlson
top 5 pick for the first time since 1998.
Yeah,
the year I was born.
Which they probably
top 5 since then, which kind of makes sense.
Marlowe.
They were pretty good for a good portion of the time.
Yeah, they
Hawks
took Marlowe.
Played him in the 2010 playoffs. Yeah, they took Marlowe. Before you switch gears, what number do you think he's gonna wear? That's
what I was gonna ask. That's why it's in my cart and not on a UPS truck right now.
I think it's between 3 numbers.
Me too. We're gonna say the same three numbers,
It's gonna be either 98, 16, or 17.
which I know what you hope.
I hope it's. Oh my god! If I could get. Oh my god! I don't know what I would do.
Weren't you born in '98 though?
Yeah.
So who cares?
Well, 16 is just weird. I don't want 16.
He's not going to be 16. That's in last place for me. Out of
a lot of people are saying 98, and a lot of
think
people
he's going to wear
98.
98.
Now, isn't that funny? Like Gretzky's 99, McDavid's 97, Bedard would be 98, smack dab in the middle. It's like those great players wear the high numbers. Like a lot of people are hoping for 98.
I think he wears 98 because that's what he wore with the Regina Pats. And Team Canada was never going to let him wear 98, so they put him in 16. 16 is Taves' Team Canada number. Let's pick a new Team Canada number there, Mr. But no, I'm kidding. He can have 16 with Canada because nobody claims a number for Team Canada except Gretzky.
17 would be so sweet.
17 would be cool. There's no doubt 17 would be cool with the Blackhawks. Who's worn 17?
It's getting ordered immediately.
Yeah. But I think the fact that you were born in 98 though, that's sick because he wasn't born in 98. What was Connor Bedard?
2005.
That's fucked up. He was born.
Won the World
I know. I fucking hate life. That's fucked up. I hope he wears 9 because, like you said, the top players wearing big numbers is cool. Patrick Kane's 88.
Crosby's 87.
Crosby's 87. Jack Hughes is 86.
It's like all the top players besides like Ovechkin.
Yeah, which Ovechkin wears a defenseman number. I don't know what he was thinking, but he's Alexander the Great 8. So like
it works.
It works exactly.
I would throws a curveball and he's like, I'm being 53.
Well, I mean, Luke Hughes is 43, which is odd for a defenseman. But that's why they've all liked 43. Quinn wears 43 in Vancouver. 86 is double 43. So that's why Jack wears that. So, numbers are interesting. I think we'll find out. Every player drafted will have a 23 on their back, except Bedard. Whatever Bedard's jersey has.
Is that how it works?
No, not usually. But they put Heischer's jersey said 17. Nolan Patrick's jersey, Cale Makar, they all said 17. Right. McDavid's was 97. I think they put 34 on Matthews' draft Leafs jersey. Like when you're the number one pick, you know who you're taking. You can make a custom jersey.
Yeah.
When you're not the number one pick, you don't know for sure who you're taking. They just kind of throw a jersey together for you right there at the end. Or right there after they know they're making the pick. And they stitch a nameplate on quickly and get it ready for you when you come out on stage. Where when you're the number one pick, that jersey's probably already made. Like the Bedard 98 jerseys already ready to throw them on them.
This is hilarious.
Maybe Buddy Robinson will change 95 and release his greatness. If there was even though he's probably never going to play an NHL game ever again, I would love to see Tom just buy like a cheap Buddy Robinson jersey. Go to like DH Gate or AliExpress or something like that. Pick up a cheap $30 Buddy Robinson jersey and wear it around me. That's a good way to make me laugh because I wouldn't be laughing if the Blackhawks didn't get Bedard. He was on track to become my second most hated player behind Avery, if that were the case. So it's not. We move on. Frank, let's talk some actual hockey in period number 2. Welcome to period 2. Really quick, Tom says, I'm in.
Gonna show up in Door County. He's gonna have a Buddy Robinson.
Show up. Let's have a hockey jersey night in Door County. I'll bring a hockey jersey.
Hey, we can.
Let's do it.
G's got her Stars jersey. Yeah.
Wait, G got a Stars jersey, huh?
We could do something.
Tyler Sagan, number 91.
Yeah.
You know why he wears 91 with Dallas?
Well, it was opposite of 19 what he wore with the Bruins.
Yep. I'm trying to remember who was wearing 19 though. That made it where he couldn't be. Because it wasn't Riley Smith because he was traded for Riley.
There was somebody on there who was.
He was traded for Riley Smith, so it couldn't have been Riley Smith. There was definitely someone. Adios, Skokes. Good luck in class. Finals week, boy. Finals week. Good luck.
I don't remember.
I'm trying to think of who would have been 19 on the Dallas Stars in 2014.
It wasn't Rich Peverly. He was like 47, right?
Yeah, but
Something like that.
Rich Peverly was traded with Sagan.
Was he really?
Yeah.
I don't remember
It
that.
was Rich Peverly and Tyler Sagan for Louis Erickson, Riley Smith, and draft picks, if I recall it correctly. Damn. I don't know. Someone was wearing 19 though, and that kept our buddy Tyler Sagan from wearing number 19, and he stuck it out with 91 for all these years now, and he's played way more years with the Dallas Stars than the Boston Bruins even at this point. Did you see him? Why don't we just get into that series? The Seattle Kraken. Actually, wait a second. I don't think we're getting into that series just yet. We're actually going to start off with the series of my favorite team, the New Jersey Devils, against the Carolina Hurricanes. They are down 3-1 in the series, and we are going to be bringing in a very good pal of mine, somebody I really enjoy talking hockey with and have gotten to know quite a bit over the last year or so. He didn't come out and say hi to me when I was in New Jersey back in December, so we're going to have to make sure that happens next time. Of course, I'm talking about my very good friend, Shorts Guy. Shorts Guy, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Vinny. Thank you. And you're right. I do owe you a trip. I do owe a trip out. I was unable to attend that game, but the next time you're out on the East Coast, we'll definitely be popping over and making sure I see you. So,
absolutely. And Shorts Guy, this is Frank, my co-host on the show. He is a head over heels Blackhawks fan that just enjoyed himself a lottery win. So before we get going, what's your take on that? How mad are you that the Blackhawks won the lottery?
I'm actually not. I'm really not mad that the Blackhawks won because the Devils were not anywhere near the running for the first overall pick for the first time in forever. We're in the playoffs right now. I know we're down 1-3, but we were not in the running for that top overall pick, and it just felt good for once to be a good team. So whatever, you can have Connor Bedard.
That's fine. There's no bad blood here. Different conferences.
Exactly. I mean, he's gonna be a hell of a player. So you guys are gonna get yourself a hell of a player. I would find it really funny if this would be the first year that a top overall pick says, "Yeah, no, I'd rather go somewhere other than the team that has." It would be wild if this was finally the year that happened. I doubt it's going to be because going to Chicago. I mean, you guys are an original six. You're a storied franchise. And I heard some little factoid the other day that Bedard's uncle had a cup of coffee with the Blackhawks for a little bit or something like that. So I guess there's a little bit of family lineage with the Blackhawks there.
Wow.
So I guess it would be fitting that he would go there.
I did not know that, Shorts Guy. Good little tidbit there.
Yeah, I heard it on the radio the other day. I forget what his name was, but if I have a chance to look it up, I'll shoot.
He had coffee with who? Was it the general? Was it the
player?
No, a player. His uncle, I believe, played for a little bit with the Blackhawks.
Oh. He means like a cup of coffee, like a short amount of time. Like he had a cup of coffee.
I thought he spent time here. Like
no,
a cup of coffee with.
Come on, Frank. Oh man!
I was like, "Oh, how nice is that?" He grabbed a cup of coffee with management. I was like, he's trying to get his nephew into the league.
That's funny.
So I'll try to look that up as we're talking, see if I can find out what his uncle's name was. But I did hear that little factoid on the radio the other day. So I guess it's a little bit of lineage there with the Blackhawks, as long as I heard it properly, which is possible I didn't because that's just the way I am when I'm listening to the radios. I'm driving.
Absolutely. The important thing to me is he's not going to Columbus and he's not going to Philly. So we do not have to deal with Connor Bedard outside of once in their building and once in our building. So that's always a positive because I do think he's going to be that good. I'm buying all the Connor Bedard hype.
I really wouldn't have minded to see him go to Anaheim. I thought him playing with Zegras would have been and McTavish would have been quite a young trio of players right there, which would have been pretty rad to see growing up together. But I mean, he's gonna you guys are definitely getting a player that's gonna be. I mean, it's already benefiting you guys season ticket wise. You guys had a jump in season tickets. And here we go. I found it. Connor's great uncle James Bedard played 22 games over 2 seasons with the Blackhawks in 49 and 51. From 49 to 51.
Wow. So he was teammates. He was teammates with Stan Mikita and Bobby Hall, right? That what that would mean?
That would have to be it. Yeah, he was a defenseman. No points in 5 games in 49-50 and 2 points, 1 goal in 17 games in 50-51. So that's a cup of coffee, if you ask me.
Yeah, that is a cup of coffee, 100%. Well, Shorts guy, obviously the main point of, this little segment here is to talk about the not so fortunate events of round 2, game 4, best of 7 between the New Jersey Devils and Carolina Hurricanes. Tough sledding in that game. They were winning 1-0. Timo Meier made a brilliant play, and Jack Hughes tipped it in front, gives them a 1-0 lead. And then one bad break. Yep. One unfortunate misplay by Michael McLeod off of a tape-to-tape pass by Luke Hughes. Learning experience for Luke Hughes to wait until he knows for a fact that the player received his pass before he changes, but that leaves a lane wide open to the net for Nietzsche, who gets the game tied, and the Devils crumble from there. What's your takeaway from game number 4?
I mean, a disaster. 5 goals in the second period. That's a disaster to me. We were held to only 22 shots on goal, which that's very reminiscent of game 1, where we had 1 looping goal, in the first period. So we were not the dynamic team we were in game 3. I'm thrilled as anything. I could not go into the game yesterday, because I think that just would have been an absolute disaster to see. I mean, I already saw both 5-1 losses to the Rangers. I didn't need to see a 6-1 loss to the Hurricanes. So overall, I was listening to most of it on the radio because I had to shoot over to my own hockey game, and it just was like goal, goal, goal. It just felt like that their goals were just coming, just one right after the other. Like, it was almost to the point where I'm listening to it going like, are they replaying the goal that just scored? Oh no, that's another goal against. It's like, holy crap! Will you at least? Where's the defense? Like, Carolina seems to be overwhelming us right now, which is a little upsetting. And the Devils have to put up or shut up at this point when it comes to tomorrow night, because obviously we go, we're done. If we don't perform tomorrow night, we're done. And I got to imagine the coaching staff is hammering that point home, whether it's in meetings or virtual meetings, emails, however they're going to hammer it home. They got to hammer it home like, this is it. Like, you guys want to prove that you're, becoming elites in the league. Well, now's your time to put up or shut up.
Isn't it kind of weird? Like, we all thought this series would have been more on the defensive side, and it's been everything but.
Yeah, it's so wild how every game's been a blowout. And even the Devils win didn't feel like a good Devils win, because it felt like a very, lack of defensive effort in that game with the 3 shorthanded goals in a row. But you look around the rest of the playoffs, and there's a lot of blowouts going on. So it's not like there's one defensive series. It seems to be that there's a lot of wide open games and a lot of goaltending shifts as well throughout all these games. So it's not uncommon for the rest of what's going on in the playoffs right now. The Vegas Golden Knights blew out the Oilers the other night, after a goalie change, and it was just boom, 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 goals coming, hot and heavy, one right after the other. So it's kind of on par for the rest of the playoffs right now, it seems. Unfortunately, when you're a fan base, and I would say most of the older Devils fan bases, at least, is used to more of a defensive style and lack of scoring against, and even lack of scoring for that matter. We're more of a, we built our championship and our history on defense and goaltending, and neither of those seem to be there right now.
Absolutely. Are you a little worried about it because they've lost 6 times in the playoffs, and all 6 of them were by 4 or 5 goals? Obviously there's goaltending question marks, and what are they going to do in the offseason if this is in fact the end for them against Carolina? What's your takeaway from all that noise?
I think that our goaltending has to tighten up. Not every single goal is on the fault of the goalie, but we've had defensive lapses a lot throughout the season. We just happen to get away with it, I think, a lot of times. In the Rangers series, Chris Kreider was just left wide open so often, and it led to goals. And that's nothing that the goaltender can do. If a guy's left open at the back post, even on a power play, that's still something that's a defensive breakdown. The shorthanded goals against in game 3. Game 3. those are defensive breakdowns. What you described the little intro there when I came in, Luke Hughes making a pass and then making a bad change. That's actually really one of those small mistakes that Chico brought up yesterday on Game Day Live when it came to that Luke is making these plays at the college speed, and this is the NHL. This is now the NHL, and it's NHL speed, so he's getting kind of burnt with it. So I'd be curious if maybe we don't see Luke Hughes in game 5, but you never know. I'm assuming we're going to probably see Schmid, because at this point I think it's anyone's net. I mean, hell, we may even see Blackwood. Who knows at this point? Like, we just
That's
don't know.
my prediction.
You think Blackwood gets in?
I do.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
no. You
I don't
how
think-
I feel about Blackwood.
I don't think it would be the wisest choice, because it's been a long while since he's had any kind of game action. It would be very much like putting Swayman in for Boston. I think if Blackwood was going to go in, a game to maybe potentially put him in was yesterday, but to put him in a game like tomorrow would almost, to me, signal that desperation, to the point where they're trying anything and everything. And Blackwood is a tale of two goalies. He's either phenomenal or he's just head scratchingly awful. And it's just a matter of which one's going to show up. And I guess Vitek has been that a little bit too this playoff series. I got to imagine that they go back to Schmid for tomorrow. I don't see.
I would.
Yeah, they kind of have to at this point, because at this point it's 6-1, and I like I said, I was listening to the radio and I was kind of here and there when I was at my rink. After what goal was Vitek pulled, or was he pulled? I gotta assume
he was pulled after the 4th goal, I believe. Or no, he was pulled after the 5th goal.
Yeah,
they called a timeout after the 4th goal. Then he gave up a 5th, and they pulled him.
Yeah.
I would have called the timeout after the 3rd, too. I couldn't believe that they didn't call a timeout after the 3rd, because it came so quickly after the 2nd. And the game's still very much in reach, especially for a dynamic team like the Devils when you're only down 2 with half a game to go. And they didn't do it. I thought there was some questionable coaching decisions yesterday by Lindy Ruff, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. But then again, if you're not getting shots on goal, you can be as dynamic as you want. If you're not getting shots on goal, we're not going to score.
Yep.
Yeah, Hurricanes have done well defensively, but yeah, I agree. You put Schmid in game 5 to start. I mean, he was the backbone in the Rangers series. I mean, Schmid was the answer. I kept telling Vinny, I wanted them to start Schmid after game 2, or just for game 2, because I thought that could have been the turning point against the Rangers. But and then I told Vinny, I'm like, yeah, you got to definitely start him for the series against Carolina. And while he hasn't, he's had his ups and downs in the series, obviously, but I still think you go to him because of him being your backbone last series. And you know what Schmid could give you. He only gave up 1 goal after Vanacek was pulled. So I like what I'm seeing from him. And if the Devils start him and they get blown out, I mean, it's nothing against Schmid. So, no. I mean, it's something you just have to do, I think.
Yeah, and I don't think it's really anything very much against either him or Vitek. I feel like it's defensive breakdowns that the Devils are just not playing well defensively in front of either of those teams. And I can tell you from my own experience in that is that if your team's not playing well defensively, you can have a hell of a game and still lose. And it's because you're the last line of defense, literally, and the puck has to go through you before it's on the scoreboard. You look like the bad guy sometimes when it really isn't your fault.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were times in the first round. I still think in Game 7, Igor Shesterkin was the best player on either team.
Oh, absolutely.
And he lost.
Yeah.
So, the Rangers just weren't that good in front of him. Do you buy the, what's it called? The experience, thing that people throw out there, because Carolina clearly looks like a team. And I think the Devils, they gained some valuable experience. I told Frank this on the show last week. Winning that first round series, that gave the Devils experience. They are no longer an inexperienced team.
Mm-hmm.
But Carolina just seems to have it all going for them. I mean, they won a playoff series in 5 straight years. They haven't won the Stanley Cup yet. This very well could be the year. But they add Brent Burns. They make a move. They're even without Pacioretty, who else is Svechnikov and Teravainen, they still look like guns a-blazing on offense. And we were wondering if they were going to be able to score at all. And now this Jordan Martinook, who was put on waivers before the season started, has 10 points in the series after having 0 against the New York Islanders. I mean, where does the experience factor weigh in for you?
The experience factor might weigh in on the scheduling of it all. I think that the guys that have been here before might know how to handle a game every other night after a highly emotional series like the Devils had with the Rangers, versus not. Yeah, and Carolina, they had a couple of days off, and right now those days off could be what is the big difference here, because there were a lot of times, at least in games 1 and 2, where the Devils just looked gassed, and we paid the price for it. And Carolina's have that experience of maybe how to handle these games coming fast and heavy, and whereas the Devils might not, even though they've got a very experienced coaching staff. These guys they've been gaining a lot of experience, but I think there's a lot to be said about coming off a highly emotional series against the Rangers and then immediately jumping into another one. That is one of those things. It's like with any job, when you get a heavy workload, it's like you have to learn how to deal with it, and sometimes you have to falter before you really deal with it properly. And we may be seeing that right now. Here's hoping, like anything, that they can turn it around for tomorrow night and go forward and potentially have a chance to win the series. But man, it's tough sledding right now.
Yeah, the Devils, they still got a long way to go. I mean, yeah, they had experience in a 7-game series, tight rivalry series. But I still think that they don't have the experience, the full package that they need compared to some of the other teams. I mean, it was great that they beat the Rangers, a team loaded with experience. But just to do that consistently, like you said, with the scheduling, and you come out of a nice heartfelt battle where the series meant the world to you, and then you jump into another series right away to play the Hurricanes, a team that has experience of going deep into the playoffs and making some runs. It's just, and some of the players on their teams have that experience. Like the Devils just don't have that yet, but it's coming. They have to pay their dues, just like some of the best teams in the league. So yeah, that's how I feel about the whole experience thing.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And for as much experience as the Rangers had, I think the Canes have the edge where they have experience and they're a team, where the Rangers were just a kind of a collection of names with experience versus being an actual team with experience, which I think that's where the Rangers faltered. Where the Canes are doing very well is they're a very good team. They play very well together and they have the experience. And not for nothing, they've got a head coach behind them that looks like he would probably damn near murder you if you didn't listen to him.
And if he could suit up on the fourth line, I think he would.
Oh
my
God.
I honestly think that of him.
He would still go out there and probably at least, be able to play for 10 minutes and destroy someone or a couple someones out on that ice.
Yeah. And another thing I wanted to ask you, the first round was awesome. I legitimately think it was one of the best. And I'm not even just talking about the Devils. I'm talking, of course, that was awesome. They beat the Rangers in 7 games. That's what we wait for as Devils fans. But even just the other series, I think it was the longest in NHL history where the Devils, or not the Devils, the NHL as a whole, it took them the longest to end a series. It took the longest to see handshakes in any series ever, or any playoff first round ever.
Okay.
And round 2 has sucked. It has been so boring. And I want to know if you have a theory why, because I kind of have a strong opinion on that as well.
It could be the link to some of the series. I mean, I think the Devils series is a prime example of, you're coming off a highly emotional series and you're seeing what happens. And a lot of times too, sometimes you'll see the opposite. You'll see a team that'll sweep a series and then get beat pretty handily in the second series because they've had so much time away from the actual game that hurts too. So that could be it as well. I think we're seeing some teams with, inexperience as well, and that's showing up. And it's at this point, all of your top teams are out. Even though I guess Carolina wouldn't be, but the big teams that are normally always there, the perennial favorites like your Tampas, your Bostons, and stuff like that, they're out. And now you have a bunch of teams that are like, oh crap, we're left here. We can do this. And some of them don't know what to do. And I think it's also fun and exciting at the same time with round 2 because we're seeing, like a Seattle type team where who would have thought Grubauer would be the most consistent goaltender of the playoffs so far.
Yeah.
Talk about an odd flip of the script. Like out of all the goalies that were in the playoffs on April 16th, April 17th, Grubauer has been your most consistent.
Absolutely. And every game, except there are two games that were close.
Mm-hmm.
Game one between Edmonton and Vegas, and game one between Dallas and Seattle. And the losing team in each of those had a guy score 4 goals. So how close actually was it without those guys each scoring 4 goals
Yep.
apiece, which is just something that's so odd. But, going back to the Devils shorts guy, and then I'll let Frankie ask you a question. They are coming into this game 5 with their backs against the wall, and it is their first time that their backs are against the wall without also having the opponent's backs against the wall since game 6 of the Stanley Cup final in 2012. What are you expecting to see from them here in this game?
Just hit my camera. I honestly don't know. I really don't know, because the way that they've come out in the first 2 games away at Carolina, we looked like we didn't know what we were doing. This team can come out and dominate. They just have to do it, and they have been the comeback kings all season long, including in the last series against the Rangers, being down 2-0. But this is an even steeper hill to climb. The franchise has come back before from something like this, but it's put up or shut up time. They have to do it. If they want to do it, this is the time that they have to do it, and no more mistakes. Like, you have to be perfect. If you want to win this series, you have to be damn near perfect if you want to do it.
Yeah, so I was just going to ask, what do you think they need to do to win this series? So you kind of answer that, being perfect, but like, what are the little things that need to be done?
You got to tighten up your D. You have to tighten up your D, and your top players have to score, and then you need your goaltending to show up as well, and be consistent, because you're not going to. It's going to be tough to win a game against a really good defensive team if you're only getting something like 22 shots on goal. Like, that's tough. Absolutely. So it's got to be a whole team effort for them to win. It's got to be a damn near perfect team effort for the Devils to go beyond this round, and they can do it. They won 13 in a row before. It's just a matter of can you replicate that now?
Absolutely. So the Devils got to, not I don't want to say make history, but, I think it would be significant franchise history if they were to pull off their second ever 3-1 series comeback. They did win the Stanley Cup last time they did it. I think if you make a 3-1 series comeback, we've already seen one already in the postseason. The likely second round opponent, the Florida Panthers, did it to the Boston Bruins, who are, seen as the juggernaut of the league coming into the playoffs. So I guess anything is possible. I will say, don't let them win game 5, Carolina, because then you're coming back to Carolina for game 7. I wholeheartedly believe that anything can happen if they win tomorrow. I part of me feels like it's either tomorrow or game 7 for Carolina. Like they're just not that good on the road, and they were so good yesterday, and it was a lot of. I hated the way yesterday's game went because everyone thinks Carolina is just so much better than the Devils. When you look at the stat sheets, though, and you recall the game, the Devils shot themselves in the foot. What were the giveaways? Like 26-2?
Oh, it was absurd.
Something disgusting. Like the Devils lost more than the Hurricanes won, in my opinion. In Carolina, they deserve credit. They take advantage of their opportunities, where they take advantage of other teams' mistakes. But it just feels like a scenario where if they could get back to the Rock for game 6, they can win this series.
Yeah, and here's hoping they do that, and it's got to be on the coaching staff, and it's got to be on the players to buy in and perform when they need to perform.
Absolutely. Shorts guy, you got a little time? You want to stay in and discuss the rest of the 3 series with Frank and I?
Yeah, I got a little bit of time. I'll stick around.
Yeah, let's talk some of these other series, because Frank and I, if you have to leave at any point, just don't hesitate at all, because we'll keep you around for the rest of the second period here as we get through the rest of the playoff series. That was actually our first. Okay. So the Florida Panthers lead the Dallas Stars. The Florida Panthers lead the Toronto Maple Leafs 3-0 in the second round of the 2023 postseason. I mean, the Toronto Maple Leafs finally get into the second round, and they're in danger of winning as many second round games as they have the entire time that they were losing in the first round anyway. What is your initial takeaway from this second round start between the two teams? The Shorts guy, will start with you, and then Frank, I'll let you break it down right after.
Their big names are not showing up when they need to, and their suspect goaltending is becoming really suspect. Like, Samsonov being injured. Injuries you can't predict, and they're sometimes unavoidable. But this is Toronto not having that solid goaltending they need, and their big names are not showing up, and they're making dumb mistakes like the Devils. They're giving the puck up, and they've had one close game. Other than that, like the Panthers are just the Panthers are being relentless, much like the Hurricanes are.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think Shorts guy said it well. Marner, Nylander, Tavares, Matthews, they're firing blanks right now. They're nowhere to be found in this series. I mean, your goal scorers in this series so far for the Leafs are Sam Lafferty, Gustafsson, Kerfoot, O'Reilly, Nyes, Bunting. I mean, those are your depth players. If you were to told me going into the series that through 3 games, those guys would be on the score sheet for a goal, I'd be like, oh my God, the Leafs are probably up 3-0 right now. But they're guys that should be scoring are firing blanks. There's nothing they could do. So I mean, it's like they're crumbling under the excitement that they have of getting their first playoff series win in forever, and now they kind of can't get over that. And Florida's just eaten up on the hype. I mean, they've come in, they beat the President Trophy Boston Bruins, and they're feeding off that. And it's continuing, and they're taking it on Toronto. And right now, Vezina Bob looks to be back to Vezina Bob. He looks fantastic, just like Grubauer. If there's another goalie that's been really consistent in these playoffs, it's been Sergei Bobrovsky. A reason why they beat the Bruins and a reason why they held a 3-0 lead against the Leafs. So, I mean, I like what I'm seeing from the Florida Panthers.
Absolutely. And the Toronto Maple Leafs, they have an issue. And I'm going to be frank here. Frank, that's like my podcast team is the Toronto Maple Leafs. My favorite team to write about this season besides the Devils has been the Oilers. Well, my favorite team to podcast about besides the Devils has been the Toronto Maple Leafs. And when I watch Nylander, specifically Matthews and Marner play hockey in the playoffs, and this probably isn't fair to say, and it's probably not entirely true, but it doesn't seem like they want to be there. It doesn't seem like they have that drive that the Oilers stars have. And I know the Oilers aren't perfect, but I believe McDavid and Draisaitl are obsessed with winning the Stanley Cup. When I watch Joe Pavelski play, that guy wants to be there so bad. Nico Heischer's battling. He's trying to make plays from his knees when he falls, and Jack Hughes is losing a tooth and fighting Sebastian Aho. They might not be there yet in terms of ability as a team yet, they clearly they play hockey in such a way that I don't see the Maple Leafs do, and it's time to make a change. I mean, I know Dubas and Keefe are probably done. Like, I don't see, if they get swept tonight, I don't see how they return next year, either of them. And they're probably going to go run the New York Rangers. And to be honest with you, I could honestly see that happening too. Well, at least Dubas will. He'll either bring Keefe with him or hire somebody else. I think he'll probably bring Keefe with him, or they'll hire Mike Sullivan if the Penguins fire him like I think they're going to, even though I think that's probably who I would hire if I were the Devils and could pick any coach in the league. But I don't know, man. The Leafs are just rotten at the core. They remind me of those old Shark teams that always used to like make it look like they were going to go really deep with Thornton and Marlowe and Pavs and Couture and Burns. And they just never happened and never formulated into success. And that's how I feel about the Leafs. It's honestly disgusting. Like, this series that's supposed to be Matthew Tkachuk versus Austin Matthews is just Florida's depth dominating them. Tkachuk doesn't have a goal. But guess what? Tkachuk makes an impact in games he doesn't score. You don't say the same about Matthews or Marner.
Yeah. It's a mess. Did either guys see the saves the date meme about the elimination of Austin and Mitch?
No, I did not.
No.
Oh man, it's it basically made it's made to look like a wedding save the date, and it's for the elimination of Austin and Mitch, May 9th, 2023, Sunrise, Florida.
That's funny.
Vinny, I'll send it to you. You can share it. You can share it with Frank, and at the bottom it says formal invitation to follow.
I will absolutely.
I saw it on Facebook. I'm sure it's on Twitter. But Vinny, I'll send it to you right now. It's pretty darn hysterical.
That's funny. Oh, I can't wait to see that. I mean, it's funny, but it's like accurate. Like they're inaugural or not inaugural. They're like, formal leave of the Stanley Cup playoffs every year, no matter what. It's just, It's crazy to me, and I think they get swept tonight. And Frank, I'm the Leafs guy. I had them coming out of the first round. I did think they were better than Tampa. You picked them to lose in the second round. I picked them to win in the second round. As of right now, like I have nothing else to say other than I'm dead ass wrong. I'm never picking the Leafs again. I'm like done with this core. I think the sweep comes tonight. I think the Florida Panthers bring out the old Burke. Do you guys agree with me?
I agree. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, everything is pointing in that direction because I don't think the Leafs are going to make the adjustments they need, and plus they've got their third string goalie in at this point.
Yeah, right? And they're so deflated right now.
Oh yeah, and the real question is who the hell is going to be the backup? Like
Matt Murray,
probably Murray, right?
They said he was. Yeah, they said he was available, but I don't know. They with their desire and love of using e-bugs as backups. I mean, I can probably get down to Florida in about a couple hours if there's a flight. I'm available.
Do it. you could play for them. No, the Leafs also love playing against Zamboni drivers who work for them and lose. I will never. That was against the Hurricanes. Was that against the Hurricanes?
That was yeah. David Ayers won it for the Hurricanes.
Yep, that was.
What a franchise! What a franchise! Yeah. We think we have problems.
Oh, listen. I'll say this with a straight. I mean every word I'm about to say. I don't love the Devils the way they played in the second round series against the Hurricanes, but I firmly, from the bottom of my heart, believe that the next 7 to 8 years could be the best or close to the 90s best Devils era ever. Jack Hughes, Luke Hughes, Nico Hischier, Timo Meier, Jesper Bratt, Dougie Hamilton. Figure out the goaltending situation. It could be at least one Stanley Cup filled in. Like, it would not shock me at all if the Devils win the Metropolitan Division 5 of the next 6 years. The only team that could seriously challenge them is the Carolina Hurricanes, but they're going to lose free agents. They're getting older. Teravainen and Aho and Svechnikov are a tad bit older than our guys. It's just their timeline is a little closer to coming to an end than the Devils is, where the Devils is just kind of popping open right now. The Toronto Maple Leafs, they would love to see their team play with the heart that the Devils play, even if they get killed 6-1 in a game 4 to go down 3-1. Like, the Devils have a future ahead of them. The Maple Leafs, it's like, which one of these stars are we going to get rid of? Ain't nobody talking about getting rid of Nico Hischier or Jesper Bratt, or, well, there are probably some people talking about getting rid of Bratt, but like Jack Hughes or Timo Meier, like, we love the way that these guys play and compete, and it's put their heart out there. I'll take the Devils situation. I'll take the Devil situation over most teams in the league, really, at this point. But I'm telling you what, the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'd rather be Chicago. I would rather be Chicago. You got Connor Bedard coming in. It feels fresh. This Korchinski, Nazar, some of these prospects they have. Oh, feed me a team like that over
Bring
the Maple
Matthews
Leafs.
over, too.
Would you want him? I know you would want him.
Why not?
I know you would want him, but he would need to prove to me that, like, and this sounds like such a meatball take, like someone who calls into the radio after watching their first ever hockey game, but like, he just doesn't. And Matthews is one of my favorite players, but he doesn't do it for me in the playoffs. I know he's got the points. They just don't. They seem like unimportant points. Marner has never scored a goal in game 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 in a series. Every playoff goal he's ever scored has been in game 1 or 2.
I didn't know that.
That's my rant about the Leafs.
It just almost shows a lack of being clutch for these guys. They're talented and skilled, but they just can't do it when it counts.
Exactly.
Yep, and the lanes that create pretty passes, and the neutral zone has been a major problem for them in the playoffs. Those things are things that change in the playoffs, and you got to figure out how to dump and chase. I know it sounds so cliche, but the prettiness of the regular season just doesn't translate to the playoffs, and that's why the Leafs run into so much trouble. They didn't even play that well against Tampa. They got 3 overtime wins, and one of them they had to come back 3 goals. I mean, the
ability
suck.
But that just shows the ability is there when they want to use it. That ability is there. The skills are there. It's just they just may not mentally have it. And we see a lot of great players that just can't mentally do it, and that just may be them.
And that's why it's so hard to win the Stanley Cup.
That too.
That's why you need the perfect group, the perfect core to do so. And right now, the Leafs haven't proved anything. They're a great regular season team, but they can't get it done in the postseason.
Yep. and they celebrated winning in the first round like they won the Stanley Cup. And I'm sure that kind of goes into that second round being stinky for a lot of teams. These emotional wins in the first round, you come in and to the second round. Now I think the third round will be different. Teams will have learned their lessons. If it's Florida versus Carolina, neither of those teams are going to be coming off this like drastic win in the previous round. Part of me wants Dallas versus Vegas for the best competitive hockey, but like Vegas versus Seattle of the original 32 would be really cool. And then, of course, anything with Edmonton is eye candy. But speaking of Vegas, they lead the Edmonton Oilers 2-1 in the series. And again, neither game has been close in the last two. Frank, I'll start with you on this one. What are you taking away from, the fact that Vegas has this 2-1 series lead going into the game 4 tonight in Edmonton?
I just don't trust Skinner. I really don't. I mean, he had one good game in this series so far, and he had one good game against the Kings, but all that was covered up because of the Oilers' ability to score a bunch of goals. I don't like what I'm seeing from him. I think Vegas, had the little edge there. I know Skinner was an all-star rookie year. He was great in the regular season, but I just don't like what I've seen from him in the playoffs. And as far as Brossoit, I've liked the way Brossoit has played with the Vegas Golden Knights, but now he's injured. Aiden Hill had to come into the game. I don't know what his injury designation is for game 4. Maybe one of you guys know, but we also got to give it up that they've played tremendously disciplined in this series. And, when you're going against a team like the Oilers and the power play they have, I mean, they were only shorthanded 2.5 minutes of game time in game 3. And I'm pretty sure that came near the end of the game when the game was already out of reach. It didn't even matter. That's how disciplined they're playing. And that's what you have to do to beat the Oilers. Nugget, he's having his problems. He's struggling to score a goal. I mean, they're just collapsing right now. And I don't like I said, I think a big reason is Jeff Skinner coming in. They should start Jack Campbell. Give him an opportunity to start a game. I like what I've seen from him more than Skinner. So switch things up. We've seen it from mostly every team in the postseason. So I want to see something different for them because I truly think that Vegas has a chance to steal this one tonight, especially if Skinner starts.
Yeah, goaltending I think has been there, but goaltending has been the bane of Edmonton's existence for years now. They have not had a good solid goalie since, I don't want to say, no, it wasn't Fuhr, but I can't even remember who the last good solid goalie that the Oilers had.
Dubnyk was okay, and then he really flamed out, and that allowed him to move on and play well other places. But like he was a first round pick. He doesn't even really count though because he wasn't all that good with Edmonton.
No.
Yeah, I'm really trying to think. And like they had Delorier for a little bit, and I thought, all right, well, this guy's going to be good, but he fizzled out. Mike Smith is Mike Smith. There's only one Mike Smith, and he gives you exactly what he is. But I'm trying to really think who the last great Edmonton goalie was, and they have all of this talent up front, but then they never take care of the back end, and the lack of goaltending seems to be always covered up by the scoring. But then it seemed like it didn't matter who was in net for Edmonton the other night against Vegas because Vegas was just scoring what felt like at will, just like at will. And Vegas now, I'm curious if maybe we'll see Jonathan Quick on the bench because this could potentially with Brossoit out, and I don't know what his. I'm with you. I haven't seen what his injury status is. And then you had Aiden Hill come in, and he did pretty well. But you also have Jonathan Quick there, and that's a guy with massive amounts of talent. Do you go to him? Do you say, "Listen, here you go. This is your net for now." I know that Campbell could be a good option for Edmonton tonight, but it just depends on what that coaching staff is willing to do, and are they willing to make those changes if needed? Is that coaching staff really in charge, or are the superstars in charge? I'd be curious of what that dynamic is in the Edmonton room too.
I actually forgot about Jonathan Quick. Yeah, I mean, why not have him on the bench? I mean, he was great with Vegas to start, and talk about a man with experience, knows how to win some Stanley Cups. I mean, get him there. I mean,
he's gonna. Him and Aiden Hill are going to be dressed tonight. Bruce Cassidy said Laurent Brossoit is unavailable for Game 4 tonight.
I would start Quick, honestly. I don't trust Aiden Hill. He played
Oh,
good, but
I read it wrong. Bruce Cassidy said if Brassard was unavailable tonight, they would fly in Patera, who must be like their AHL starter or something. But Aiden Hill and Jonathan Quick were also on the ice. So
Okay. So they would have someone there just in case, which means
yeah,
that okay.
that's the playoffs. You gotta have
Yeah.
3 or 4
Yeah.
guys ready.
I mean,
You know-
I'm looking at their roster now. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rostered goalies right now. 1 without a number, and 5 with. But it's just that's wild to me.
Do you guys want to move into the last series that we have left to discuss, or do you want the breaking news? The breaking news will moderately affect Shorts Guy and I possibly for the next
Okay.
handful of years. Which would you prefer?
let's hear it. Let's hear the
Let's hear the
breaking news.
breaking news.
I was hoping you'd say the breaking news. It is confirmed that one of Keith Jones or Eddie Olczyk will run the Philadelphia Flyers, and they will make an announcement later this week.
Wow.
Shorts Guy, your reaction? The Devils fan who needs both of them to fail either way.
I hope it's Keith Jones because I want to see him fail because I do like Eddie Olczyk.
I agree.
Keith Jones is just. I mean, I know that's his personality and he's a TV personality, but he said something a couple years ago about having the enlarged nets and Roberto Luongo being against it. And he was like, oh, Roberto Luongo wouldn't be in my league. It's like, he's one of the greatest goalies of all time. Why don't you just shut up? So I've not really liked him since, and he's a Flyer through and through. I would love to see him go there and just do what the Flyers have done for the last couple of years and just fail.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Eddie O. Blackhawks guy.
Uh-huh.
So I don't want to see Eddie Olczyk fail. I didn't even really realize that the Philadelphia Flyers were going to hire any of these guys. Was that like public knowledge? Like they were.
Well, no, they fired not Hextall. They fired what's his name, and they put Danny Briere in charge to end the season. And Danny Briere is probably still going to be there, but Eddie Olczyk or Keith Jones will be the new president, and they will announce it later this week. And
I have a feeling it's going to be Keith Jones.
Yeah,
you would think, right? He's the Flyers guy.
Yeah,
Eddie Olczyk was a Pittsburgh guy more than a Philly guy.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning Keith Jones, like from non-biased point of view as well. It just seems like the right fit.
Eddie Olczyk seems like too nice of a guy to go to Philly.
Yeah,
you kind of have to be a jerk to be in Philly.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You need like either a Philly scumbag or like a Jersey guy to go down and run Philly. I don't know. They're probably in the toughest spot. I think I'd rather be the Leafs than them because their best player is Konechny and Hayes. Konechny's a nice young piece, but they'll probably move him for prospects and stuff because they could get something for him. Nothing seems to have worked out from them. Everyone hates Provorov. No one's going to trade for him, even though he's very good. There are off the ice things that would keep anybody from bringing him in, I think. Carter Hart, they'll probably trade him too for the same reason they would trade Konechny. The Devils do Carter Hart.
And he'll do fantastic wherever he's going to go because the Flyers love to trade goalies that don't work for them and then just go.
Yep, Bobrovsky.
It's insane. The Flyers waste great goalie talent.
They do, and
a good fit in New Jersey.
Yes, he would. He absolutely would. He fits the timeline. So would Spencer Knight from Florida.
They just wouldn't make that trade.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah. But they have the 7th pick. Like, nothing real needle moving like anytime soon. They'll probably be in the Max Celebrini sweepstakes next year, I would think. We'll see what happens with Tortorella, but I mean, that's wild. The Flyers are like, okay, where can we look for our next president? How about NHL on TNT? We'll pick one of those guys. It just doesn't make much sense to me personally, but what do I know? I'm happy to have Tom Fitzgerald, running our show. And then Frank, you got a stud Muffin and Kyle Davidson. So this podcast is in good hands for who we're cheering on going forward. But, this last series, the Dallas Stars and the Seattle Kraken, the only one right now that is tied 2-2. None of the games have really been close, although it got a little hairy. Yesterday reminded me of Game 3 between the Devils and Hurricanes. Like the one team dominated, then it got a little hairy at the end thanks to some special teams issues. But eventually, Max Domi threw one into the empty net, and the series is now tied. Short Sky, I'll start with you on this one. Dallas Stars versus Seattle Kraken.
Yeah, this whole playoff seems to be Seattle's coming out party, and they're really proving that they can do it. And like I mentioned earlier, who would have thought Grubauer would be the most consistent goaltender in these playoffs? And the Kraken are another team. They're just a straight up team. They've got good players, but they're getting some pretty spread out scoring. Eberle seems to be the name on any broadcast, whether TV or radio. It seems to be one of the names you hear the most, so he's really putting in a ton of effort there. On the Stars side, I mean, you've got Pavelski coming back with that massive game, and they still lose. And it seems like that the Kraken are starting to figure out Ottinger a little bit as well. But again, it's 2-1 Seattle, a 7-2 blowout last night. That's these playoffs. It's just they're so hard to predict. Any night can be a goal scorer's paradise, and this is Americans love scoring. So if Americans weren't into NHL playoff hockey up to this point, with all the goals against, all the goals being scored, holy crap, man! People are gonna have to love it. Defensive people like me are like, this is insane. I hate all these goals because we're not making many saves. But yeah, this is another series that I know I picked Seattle to win this series again, and I hope they do. But you're just who would have thought that the Kraken would be here in this point and defeating the Stars 7-2 in a game in the playoffs?
Absolutely, Frank.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of people have given the Kraken enough credit this year. Neither have I. Neither has Vinny. We were down on them the whole year, and
competitively bad. Remember, competitively bad.
Which that was just the start of them being good.
Yeah. Frankie was like, if they go 4-1 on the next 5 games, I'll give them credit. They went 5-0.
Yeah, it's like they've been proving us wrong, and but I got to give credit to the Stars too. They really haven't panicked in any series. They lost that heartbreaker in Game 1 against the Minnesota Wild in double overtime. They rebounded fantastic. Then they're down 2-1 to the Kraken here, and there's no panic. There's no panic I've seen from the Dallas Stars, and I think the kryptonite in this series is there's a couple of them actually for the Seattle Kraken is that they haven't been able to win faceoffs, and having possession of the puck is huge when you're trying to win games, let alone series. But they really been getting dominated at the faceoff dot in this series, and that's showing. And they said this during yesterday's game that Kraken actually lead the postseason in 5-on-5 goals, which is great. But when it comes to their special teams just don't show up. They were 0 for 2 on the power play yesterday, and they went 1 for 3 on the penalty kill. So it's great that you're great on 5-on-5, but if you want to beat the Dallas Stars, you're going to need to perform on your special teams a little bit, but and win some faceoffs. But yeah, I mean, congrats to the Kraken for even making it this far. I don't know if they'll win this series. I picked Dallas in 6, so I mean, it's kind of going right around how I planned, but I mean, we shall see.
Kind of pisses me off. Every series in this round is going how you planned. You had a disaster shit show in the first round, but you're doing pretty damn good in the second round. And I would make fun of you for having a really bad first round, but you've been okay here in the second round. So credit to you. I hope there's one series though that goes completely off the rocker on your prediction. Frankie Shorts guy picked the Canes in 5, which if
I hope possible. Frankie, I hope you're wrong. It's possible.
Yeah. I hope he's wrong too. I hope
it's Devils in 7 at this point. It's the only outcome I want, but
yeah. You know what though? Canes in 6 though would make me feel a tad bit better than Devils in 5. First of all, Frankie would be wrong. Second of all, I'm actually kidding, Frank. I actually like when you're right. It gives our podcast more credibility.
There you go.
Because I don't do that for us by any means with my predictions half the time. But I just think like that extra game, like losing in 6, there's something respectable about it. The Devils are the young team coming in the next year. So it's been a good time. Shorts guy, we can't thank you enough for coming on our show. This has been an absolute pleasure. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with us for a little bit, and we would love to have you back on literally anytime you want.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. This was a blast, and yeah, man. And anytime you guys want me to come on and talk a little bit of hockey, I'm more than happy to do so. So
appreciate it.
No, not a problem, man. I appreciate you guys having me, and Vinny, we'll keep in touch, and I'll definitely be back on.
Absolutely. Well, I'm thinking the Stanley Cup final would be a great time to have you on, regardless of the matchup. And before you go, promote your stuff. I know you got a good hockey podcast going too.
Yeah. Geez, it's a matter of which one. So
All of them. Talk about all of them.
So the flagship podcast of our network is the Let's Go Devils podcast every Sunday night, live at 9:00, 9 Eastern. And you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those fun places. Well, going along with the Devils still, Game Day Live with none other than Vinnie Parisi there. That I've been adopted onto that show about as consistently as I can be, especially for the playoffs. It's been a wild ride. The playoffs have been exhausting.
Absolutely, and I love having you on it. That can't be said enough. I love having you on it.
It's been a ton of fun.
Perspective.
It's been a ton of fun. And then we have Devils After Dark, which recaps all the Devils games afterwards. And I can also be found Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, Hockey on Tap, with three of my closest friends that I also play hockey with and against at times. That's Monday nights, 8 Eastern, where we talk hockey and also we talk beer. And sometimes just a bunch of random stuff, because we've been friends for so long that sometimes the most random stuff comes out of our minds that probably means nothing to no one other than the four of us.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And hey, it's been great having you on. It's been great being a part of the Let's Go Devils podcast network. Make sure you're following Shorts Guy everywhere he goes. He does great work, talking hockey. So we can't thank you enough for coming on.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure, and I'll definitely be back on again.
Absolutely. All right. That's Shorts Guy. Thank you very much for joining us. Frank, we have some other stuff to go over here before we move on out of here. And we will do so right now. That was a really nice interview with Shorts Guy. I was happy to have him on.
It was good. It was a lot of fun.
Very smart. Very smart. So much fun. I was going to send it over to period number 3, but I actually think there's one thing we could go over here really quick to end period number 2. I just want to quickly go over the junior finals.
Mm-hmm.
You have the championship games going in the OHL, the Q, and the WHL. Of course, London Knights versus Peterborough Petes is the OHL championship.
Mm-hmm.
The Quebec Remparts are going to play the Halifax Mooseheads in the Quebec Major Junior League Championships, the QMJHL. And the Seattle Thunderbirds are going to play the Winnipeg Ice in the Western Hockey League's championship. Of course, notable players coming from some of these teams. The Seattle Thunderbirds, Matt Barzal, played for the Seattle Thunderbirds. Nico Hischier and Nathan McKinnon played for the Halifax Mooseheads, and Patrick Kane, amongst many other players, played for the London Knights. So there are some notable teams that have had lots of success lately, or over the last 20 years or so, are competing. The winner of each game will compete in the Memorial Cup, along with the Kamloops Blazers, who are hosting the tournament, and the host team always, is the fourth team in the tournament. We will see who makes it there. Frank, does this mean anything to you? Like, what are you looking at when it comes to the potential Memorial Cup candidates?
Yeah, I don't know a ton about it. Got to be honest with you. I do know the London Knights. They're a very experienced team, and they're playing against an inexperienced team who's having their first final in 17 years. So I probably give the edge to the Knights in that one. I also think probably maybe the most exciting matchup in the CHL playoffs is probably the Ramparts and the Mooseheads, because the Mooseheads won both regular season meetings against the Ramparts, but I think that the Ramparts could win the series. I think it's probably the closest of the three series that'll be going on. Could probably be very tight on paper. They're both pretty even. So you got that. And then the WHL, I know Kevin Korchinski plays for the Thunderbirds. So I go Thunderbirds. I'm rooting for the fellow Blackhawks. So yeah, that's what I got for you. Other than that, I don't really follow the CHL too often, but
I'm becoming obsessed, like college hockey. I think I'm going to bet on it. Yeah, oh yeah. It's like crack. All these junior leagues and all these players. You look at every roster, and there's at least one player you heard of before.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's just so fun. I do wish it was the Thunderbirds versus the Regina Pats.
Could you imagine?
In the championship here, but Regina lost in the first round after having a 3-1 series lead. You know me, I like coming back from a nice 3-1 series lead, hopefully. I'm just kidding. But yeah, the Memorial Cup's going to be so fun. I can't wait to see who comes out on top. My favorite team in junior is the Windsor Spitfires because, I just remember when Taylor Hall had, his success with the Devils, the Windsor Spitfires were good again and he was cheering them on, and Ryan Ellis played for the Windsor Spitfires and there were other really good players there. That's just my favorite team, and it's probably the closest. I don't know if there's definitely a team in Michigan. The Saginaw Spirit are probably the closest team to Illinois, but the Halifax or the Windsor Spitfires are close. And I've actually seen Windsor with my own two eyes. I was able to see it from the hotel I stayed in last time I was in Detroit. But so the Windsor Spitfires are by far my number one favorite CHL team. The CHL is the three leagues put together. But I think out of the teams that are left, the Halifax Mooseheads are my favorite because they got like the Christmas tree colored jerseys, and Nico Heischer played for them, and he elevated their game by like a lot. They were like a mediocre roster, and Heischer got them into like some pretty big games, and now he's the Devil's star. So good luck to all the kids playing, though. That's obviously a super exciting time in their life. And then once we get to the Memorial Cup, we'll start breaking things down probably a little bit more in depth. But, right now it's kind of like the college football playoff. Mm-hmm. Every team is playing their conference championship game right now, and the winners are going to move on to the college football playoff. I just think that's really, really cool. So wanted to go over that a little bit, and that will take us away from hockey a little bit. Oh, not really. Wanted to touch on one thing. We talked about the Dallas Stars with Shorts Guy and their series. One thing I forgot to mention, wrote an article for Puck Pros, linked G's article. Think that's really cool that you could get to G's article from my article for the first time ever. So, make sure you go check that out. I just tweeted it. I made sure to tweet it right when I was going to talk about it so people watching can go check it out. It's tweeted at Vinnie Parisi. Career playoff goals amongst active players. Only 2 have more than Joe Pavelski. Who do you think they are?
For who? Dallas?
No. Active players, career goals. Who has more than Joe Pavelski?
Alex Ovechkin.
Yep.
And
don't think too hard.
Crosby?
Sidney Crosby.
I thought that'd be too easy.
Yeah, it's Alex Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby, and guess what? The gap is not large. Alexander Ovechkin has 72 career playoff goals. Sidney Crosby has 71. Last night, Joe Pavelski scored his 70th. There's a chance he could pass both of them before these playoffs are even over.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I think he's just been so outstanding with the Dallas Stars and the San Jose Sharks throughout his career, and I'm super stoked to see it. I had to write about it the second I saw that stat, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm writing about the Stars. Link a G article, and lo and behold, she had one about Joe Pavelski. So, it was good. I like writing about the Stars. I like writing about Pavelski. He's one of the greatest American-born players to ever live, and that's how I would want to end talking about hockey on this show, Frank.
Well, very nice.
Absolutely. So we will send it over now, finally, to period number 3. Welcome to period 3. Frank, it's the bullshit period. Talk about whatever the H you want. You saw freaking Guardians of the Galaxy 3, right?
Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
Tell me about it with no spoilers. No spoilies.
All right, full spoiler. Here we go. No, I know Joey saw it too, he said. Last night.
I'm going to punch him in the face.
No, I don't know. I just thought you'd know.
No, I did not know that.
Because I think Dylan knew too. But
man, everyone keeping me out of the loop.
No, but yeah, he said he loved it. It's fantastic. It's very satisfying because this is the last Guardians movie. I mean, that was already known. James Gunn's going to DC, so this is like the end of a trilogy. And I thought, like, if you were to tell me before I saw the movie, this is how it's going to end, I'd be like, yeah, I'm satisfied with the way everything went. It's very emotional. Based on the trailers, Adam Warlock's going to be in it, and he's very powerful. I don't know the ins and outs of Adam Warlock. I do know he's kind of the middleman kind of like a bounty hunter in Star Wars. He's like he'll do whatever's best for him. But you don't see he's not in the movie a ton. So like the trailers kind of make you think that he's not in it that much. But he does. You don't need him in this movie to make it good. Like the main villain and everything about this movie, it's incredible. It's really good. Like I said, it also does a great job of connecting the past and the future. I'm trying to choose my words wisely because I don't want to give too much away. But I would also say it's more on the dark side, like a dark emotional type of thing. So yeah, I mean, I don't have like a review written out, but I know it did make Marvel history, if you want to know that.
Yeah, what's that?
It was the first ever Marvel movie to drop the F-bomb.
What?
Yeah, so there's that.
Who says it?
Do you have a guess? Do you want to
Quill.
know?
Either Quill or Rocket.
Do you want to know?
Yeah.
It's neither of those two.
Oh, it's not
Oh,
Groot.
wait, it is. Yeah, no, it is one of those two.
Oh, it's
But I thought it was the other one. Huh?
It's Rocket.
No, it's
Peter Quill.
Yeah.
He says fuck?
Yeah.
Why?
He says fuck him.
That's crazy. I'm gonna bust out laughing when it happens now when I see it.
And you won't be expecting it. I couldn't believe it.
That's funny. I'm actually happier knowing it going in. That way it won't be a complete shock to me.
And then after you watch it, there's something like that James Gunn touched on. So like I'd stay away from seeing that. Because it's kind of a cool moment, but he touched on something that made me like the movie like 10 times more. So it's really good. It by no means, in my opinion, is it better than Endgame or Infinity War or anything like that. That's like the cream of the crop here. It's up there though. It could be a top 5 for sure. Like I think it rivals some of the great Marvel movies that aren't Avengers movies.
Is there like a reveal in it or something that'll like hype me up? Like I don't
Depends
know.
how much you want me to say. Like, do you want me to tell you if there's a reveal?
Like just yes or no me. Is there something like when Spider-Man popped out in Civil War or something like that?
No.
Okay.
That's what makes the movie so good is there's nothing like that, but it still is like incredibly one of the best Marvel movies. That's what makes it so good.
Okay.
Like,
and the story firmly ties into everything that's going on now with what we saw with what was the most recent one we saw? Ant-Man? Yeah, the most recent Ant-Man we saw, Quantumania. And like what's going on with Doctor Strange and Peter Parker
it doesn't touch on that. It strictly focuses, I mean, it alludes to stuff that's happened in the past, but it doesn't don't expect an in-depth conversation about like Kang or anything like that we you see in Ant-Man, or just it does its own job of telling its own story but connecting it so well and proving like we don't need big cameos to make this a great movie. Like I don't know. Yeah, I mean there's not you're just gonna have to see it.
Okay. I understand. Frank, now that our Kings are dead, what's going on in the NBA? The Celtics, they suck. Like everything you've told me so far about the NBA is wrong.
I know. Well, we'll see. The Celtics come back. They're down 3-2. Phillies. I mean, Joel Embiid, the reigning MVP of the NBA season, right? So, I mean, what do we?
I'm just so confused. This guy must be watching like our show back or something because we haven't talked about Connor Bedard in like an hour.
I was confused too for a second. That's why I stopped. I was like, you can't watch it back until it's right. Could you go back?
I don't know. I have no idea.
You might be able to watch it back while we're live, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. I don't know. But yeah, so Phillies lead the Celtics 3-2. Nuggets lead the Suns 3-2. Heat are on a heater, no pun intended, leading the Knicks.
Pun intended.
No. I actually didn't plan on saying that. They lead the Knicks 3-1, which they were a play-in team, VP. They beat the Bucks. And now Mike Budenholzer, whatever, for the Bucks, he was fired. Which was, I mean, he's a great coach. Giannis, kind of said a few words about being coached with him, that he respects him. And the Lakers lead the Warriors 3-1. I just truly believe like that's just because the Warriors don't know how to win on the road. They forgot how to play on the road this year. So you're not going to win the NBA championship if you can't win on the road. But LeBron's doing LeBron things. I don't think the Lakers win by any means. They could prove me wrong here, but they just don't have that team yet. Some of these other teams, Philly, I don't know why I have Phillies, the Sixers, the 76ers, the Celtics, the Nuggets, even the Suns. I mean, those are like cream of the crop teams. Those are going to be the teams that are going to be really tough, I think, for the Lakers to beat.
For sure. Do you have an adjusted favorite to win the whole thing?
Nah, I'm going to still say the Celtics. I think they're going to rebound, win 2 straight against the Phillies. 76ers. Got to get my Philadelphia teams right.
Are they down 3-2 or is it tied 2-2?
Philly, oh my God. 76ers are up 3-2.
Yeah, the Celtics are toast.
So we'll see.
You really think the Celtics are going to win the series?
I do. If they win Game 6, comes home for Game 7, Celtics got a good team, man.
That's funny. I mean, I would root for the Celtics. I don't really root for anything Philly, but
do you want to know a crazy stat? Teams that are down 3-1, and this is definitely not the same for the NHL, I don't think. The teams that are down teams that are up 3-1 win the series 95% of the time.
Wow.
I feel like in the NHL, it's like probably in the high 80s.
Yeah,
less.
I agree.
It's not 95.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I mean, it already happened once this year that the Florida won. It could happen again.
Celtics, because there's no other reason why. The Celtics are the balls.
There you go.
Go Celtics.
Whoever that was, they're smart. They're a smart man. Listen, the NBA is weird. I think it is also, though, it's harder. It's easier in hockey to come back in a series. I truly believe that. That's why no team in the history of the NBA has ever come back down 3-0. And it's happened 4 times in the NHL. It's harder to come back in the NBA. That's why I think the Warriors are definitely probably cooked against the Lakers down 3-1. And the Knicks might even lose tonight against the Heat down 3-1. But a 2-game series, like you just win 2 in a row, that's possible, especially when you got the talented roster of the Celtics. I want you to continue watching B-ball.
The 4 teams that won after being down 3-0 in hockey, too. 2 of them had Mike Richards on it, and they were in like the early 2010s. The Kings in 2014 and the Flyers in 2010. One of those 2 teams won the Stanley Cup. The other lost the Stanley Cup.
And the Hawks were almost the 5th team against Vancouver when they're down 3-0.
Well, they would have been the 4th team, though.
Oh, yeah, because the Kings did it after that, right?
Yeah.
They would have been the 4th team. Unbelievable. Heartbreak. Taves scores shorthanded.
Yep. Alexander Burrows scores in overtime.
Dumb pass up the board. I think the idiot who did it was like Fernando Pisani.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that name. I think that was who did it. Oh,
and then freaking Burrows took a slap shot from point blank, which is not really something you even see anymore.
Just beat Crawford.
But normally when you're like on a breakaway, you don't see guys take a slapper, even defensemen.
Yeah, right.
So that's fun.
Yeah.
What about the MLB? Talk your shit.
Nothing. There's been no big news in the MLB lately. The Rays are still hot. The Cubs kind of coming back down to earth a little bit. And the Mariners are just 18-18. They're just having their merry old way. They're content with winning 2 out of 4 games all the time. But, what's different now than it was last year when the Mariners got into, was it last year or the year before? They got into I think it was last year. They got in a decent hole where they're like, oh, we're 30 games in the season. We're already like 10 games back of the Astros and like when you're that far back, it's hard to make up ground. I don't care how many games you're playing. But right now, they're only 3.5 games out of first through 36 games, which that's reasonable. The Astros, by no means, look lethal this year. And I know they haven't had Altuve, but
no, and Abreu doesn't have a home run.
Yeah, I mean the Astros look beatable this year. I think are the Rangers in their division?
Yeah,
I think they're leading the division. I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
Unreal.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's about freaking time the Rangers are doing something. I mean, they buy Marcus Semien and Corey Seager last winter. Then this past winter, they spend money on pitching with DeGrom and Nathan Eovaldi.
Yeah.
And they're finally putting it together a little bit. They had a really good prospect farm. Some of those guys are starting to come up and contribute. And the Texas Rangers are looking like they might be a playoff team now. I don't know if they'll hang on and win the division because I still think the Astros might be able to find a way to become the Astros again. They're still the defending World Series champions that added Abreu. So, we'll see. Verlander's not there anymore, but he's not even really helping the Mets all that much. So they probably got out of a mistake by letting him go. And I don't know. It's so wide open right now. Like the Boston Red Sox are just on a tear, and they're still in like 4th or 3rd place. The Yankees are in last place.
Well, they were without Judge for a while too.
Yep, but
Judge
the Yankees
came back yesterday and they exploded.
Yeah, but the Yankees would be leading the AL Central.
Are you serious?
Yeah, the Twins would be in last place in the AL East, and
Wow.
they're leading the AL Central.
Well, I mean, the Sox are playing bad. The Guardians are dog shit.
Yeah, the Sox are playing better. They've won 7 of their last 10.
Yeah, they've been playing better, but they found themselves in a hole early on.
They're in a huge hole, and they have to keep playing this well. They play tonight, and just keep winning series.
And Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn's been really bad this year.
Really bad. Yes, and Dylan Cease hasn't been all that good either, but Giolito's been awesome.
I know.
So hopefully it evens out. The White Sox have the 3rd worst starter ERA in
Do they really?
the American League. Yeah. So, I mean, the Sox are picking it up. The Cubs are falling all of a sudden.
Yeah, they don't look like the way they started out. They're
Why
on earth a little bit?
Why is everyone shitting on David Ross though? Why are Cub fans all of a sudden turning on him so fast?
I'm not. I don't know.
I mean, I know he's got a losing record as a manager overall, but look at the dog shit rosters they've had.
I know.
That's like shitting on Rick Renteria's manager record. Like their best player was Starlin Castro when Rick Renteria was their manager. Like, I mean, you're not going to win with these rosters. Doesn't matter if you're freaking the greatest manager of all time in their prime. My favorite manager in baseball is Tito Francona, manager of the Guardians right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's gotten a lot out of some mediocre teams like last year with the Guardians, but like you could give him this Cubs roster or give him this, the old Cubs rosters, and I just don't necessarily agree with the poo-pooing David Ross so far right now.
No, I don't either. I think it's stupid if you do.
Yeah. So make sure you tune into Crosstown Crosstalk tomorrow where we'll talk a little baseball and football and keep the conversation going. Very much looking forward to that. And we will get you right now. Actually, really quick, Frank, what are we watching this weekend? Lay it on me.
Same old, maybe the Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse.
The new movie comes out?
Beginning of June. So I want to go see that when it comes out. So I just quick watch for Spideyverse.
Did you haven't watched it yet? Frank. For the first 26 years of my life, Toy Story 1 was my favorite animated movie of all time. Now it's number 2.
Well, what makes this
Into the Spider-Verse? What makes it so good is
give me your spoiler-free review.
You're watching a movie that is a comic book. And like when you watch Civil War, it feels like a comic book movie. The way the cameras move and the action, it has like comic book feel to it, even though it's live action.
Mm-hmm.
Well, watching the Spider-Verse is like that, but with an actual comic, like it's a cartoon.
Yeah.
And the voice acting is as good as I've ever heard. The music is incredible. The plot is amazing. You care so deeply about these characters that are drawings. And like, I don't know, it just from beginning to end captures your attention and brings you through. You get sad. It takes you on an emotional roller coaster. It relates to some of the issues that go on in the real world. And Into the Spider-Verse is just fan-frickin-tastic. It is my number one favorite.
Fantilly-tastic.
It's fantilly-tastic. If it were an MCU movie, it would be in the top 5. Yeah, it would probably. It's probably my second or third favorite Spider-Man movie ever.
Wow.
Like it's so.
I can't wait to watch it.
So good, and I cannot wait for this sequel. Did you see the Burger King sandwich?
No.
This is going to be served at your local Burger King. Starting, I don't know when.
Probably within the next few weeks if it has to do with Spideyverse.
It absolutely has to do with Spideyverse. You could get that in the drink. Exclusively. Oh, that's exclusively in theaters. The Burger King Look it up if you're listening to the audio. I mean, look at that.
That looks yummy.
Your boy will be eating a Spider-Man burger from Burger King.
Is it a burger or
soon.
chicken?
It says I think it's a Whopper.
Looks like chicken.
Yeah, it's
At least
not.
from
It's
what
a
you showed me. Like
Spider-Verse Whopper. Obviously the typical Whopper. It's just a red Whopper bun. I mean, that's really the only like super cool thing about it. They call it the
but even that glass.
Yeah, mayonnaise, lettuce, tomato, onion, ketchup, pickles, Swiss cheese, salt and pepper, Whopper patty. I mean,
They know
what's
how to
better?
get people to buy some Whoppers.
Yeah, well, I love Whoppers. It's not as good as a Big Mac, in my opinion, if I'm ranking the two like franchise sandwiches, but it's still really damn good. And it doesn't say when though. Well, let me see if it says it in this article on USA Today. May 15th. So we got 5 days. I'm probably gonna try to make my way to the BK and taste this. Yeah, I just want a picture of it because I love Spider-Man. Iron Man, Tony Stark is my favorite character in the MCU, but that's specifically to the MCU. In general, my favorite superhero, Spider-Man. And, I can't wait. I'm super stoked for Spider-Verse. That'll be fun. Watch it. Watch it as soon as possible. I'm telling you right now. I think it's on Disney Plus now.
I think it's on Hulu for sure.
They just added that and Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 with Tobey Maguire.
And The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, they added it all to Disney Plus now.
Except they don't have The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
I know.
Which is weird.
And I don't think No Way Home is on there either. No Way Home is
not on there either, no.
And I've still only seen it the one time in theaters.
Me too.
Yep. So, Frank, it's time for you to win some people some money in America's favorite podcast segment of the week, Breaking Bets.
Where's my money, bitch?
Frank?
VP.
How'd you do last week? I know you were
back. Big bounce back week.
Let's go.
Back to the 50% mark. We went 2 for 3 on the picks last week. That's 66% for last Wednesday. We're back and we're only going forward. So yeah, it was a big week after going 0 for 5, but we're back. I got 3 picks for you: 2 MLB, 1 NHL, no NBA this week. There's stuff I like in the NBA, but it's not worth giving out. Start off with the NHL since this is mostly an NHL show. Golden Knights at the Oilers. This should be a good game. I think the Knights could win this, but rather just taking the Knights to win, I'd like the little insurance with the 1.5. It's kind of pricey, but if you're feeling it, go ahead and take Vegas Knights money line. Little sprinkle on that, but I would load up on the plus 1.5. Plus 1.5 is minus 157. Yeah, minus 157. There's tremendous value if you think they're going to win the game. If Skinner's playing, I take the Golden Knights straight up, to be honest with you. Don't like the way Skinner's been playing in the series. And they're very, very healthy sized dogs. So Golden Knights plus 1.5 at minus 157. That is pick number 1. Switching it over to the MLB, the Cardinals play the Cubs tonight. Cardinals have won the first 2 games of the series. I think that trend's going to continue. I like the Cardinals money line at minus 112. It's Montgomery versus Steele. The Cards have played well. Like I said, this series, they haven't played well all season. The Cubs are coming back down to earth. Steele's 5-0, 1.45 ERA. But I think this is one of those games where you're not going to stay perfect forever. It doesn't happen. So I think this is a game against a team they should beat the way that the Cubs played to start the year and the way the Cardinals played. You would think it'd go in the Cubs' favor, but I think this is a good game for the Cardinals to capitalize, win their 3rd straight against the Chicago Cubs. Cardinals money line minus 112. I really like that play a lot. Probably my favorite play of the 3 I'm going to give. And finally, the Tampa Bay Rays go and play the Baltimore Orioles. Beeks versus Kremer. Kremer's had some rough starts this year, but I like the way he pitched against the Braves. Pitched really well against the Braves. Gave up 6 hits, but he went, I think, 6 innings. So if you give up 1 hit an inning, it's not the end of the world. He only gave up like 1 earned run. Pitched very well in that game against one of the best teams in the league right now in the Atlanta Braves. Beeks for the Rays is also a relief pitcher, so I do think the Orioles could get to the Rays bullpen today. And the Orioles money line at home is plus 100. I love the way the Orioles been playing. Getting them at plus at home. I love this spot for them. So Orioles money line plus 100. Those are the 3 picks for you. And let's get over 50%. We're either over or under 50% next week. So
you'll be over. Let's go.
Hopefully.
Hell yeah. Well, Frank, that was a great show.
It was a great show.
It's been a while since we've had a show that long, and I appreciate it. We dove balls deep into Bedard, and we talked about Fantilli, all the playoffs with the Shorts guy. Loved that. Shorts guy already confirmed he'll be back during the Stanley Cup final. I texted him. So I hope you enjoyed that as well.
I did.
The third period, talking about our shit like we always do. You're going to make some people some money, and that's just how the show rolls.
I like that. Is breaking bets part of the third period? Yeah, right? Or is it just like its own thing? It's like one period, 1, 2, 3, own thing.
I would say it's a segment in the third period, right? I don't know.
We have a graphic for it, so it's like, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Is each period a segment? Because I feel like in each period there are segments. Like in the first period, there was the Bedard segment, there was the Fantilli segment, and then the rest of the draft order segment. And then in period 2, there was one big segment with Shorts guy breaking down all the playoffs, and then the CHL playoffs. I don't know.
See, I write down period 1, 2, 3, but when I do breaking bets, it's its own thing. Like I don't have it under period 3 when I write my notes. I have it under breaking bets. It's like its own side thing.
Okay.
I don't know.
It's overtime.
Kind of. It's like overtime without saying it's overtime.
Yeah. I like that.
So,
well, make sure you tune in all the great shows here on the Barroom Network, and starting tomorrow. There might be a show tonight that you need to tune into too. I don't know exactly what it would be though. And then of course tomorrow, Crosstown Crosstalk, I'll be with you all at 2 p.m. to talk baseball. And then of course you can read all my stuff at thewindycity.com. We just went over EA Sports' NHL's prediction and certain players that could come back and play with Bedard. Puckpros.com talked about Fantilli, wrote the article about Joe Pavelski covering the Oilers Golden Knights series. And then blackandteal.com, I have some things. The NFL schedule is supposed to come out tomorrow, so we'll be having stuff on that for the Jacksonville Jaguars as well as the Bears on Windy City. And then, of course, the Chicago White Sox for SouthsideShowdown.com. They're back. They're winning a bunch of games. Hopefully that continues. And the New Jersey Devils for Pucks and Pitchforks. So, hopefully they're able to come back in this series and at least make it a series. Great year all around. By next week's show, I'll know what's going on with the Devils, if they're either done, because even Game 7 will be Monday. So we'll either know if they're done or, moving on to the conference finals for the first time since 2012. Either way, though, it's been so much fun, and there's no place I'd rather vent about my stuff than here with you. And, of course, you could read your stuff at apptrigger.com. I'm assuming you probably will also write something about this Connor Bedard.
I've already written 2 Connor Bedard articles this year, so this will be the 3rd, and I have a 4th planned.
Very good. Can't wait to read them. Make sure you read all that from Frank Mueller at apptrigger.com. And hell yeah, let's go. What a good time. The Blackhawks and the Devils are both going to be on the rise over the next couple years. Sucks for everybody else. It's going to be fun to be us and not fun to be everybody else. Who cares about them? Frank, anything else before we move on out?
I just still feel like I'm in a dream, VP. Just waiting to wake up.
Absolutely. You're not going to wake up from it anytime soon. Connor Bedard is coming, and he's coming fast. So hopefully everybody enjoyed the show, and we will be back next week at 2 p.m. To Shorts Guy, thank you very much. To everybody else at the Barroom Network, make sure you're always watching in and reading our stuff on fansided.com. As always, thank you for listening.